Yeah, this is case number 547 on the calendar in the matter of White versus Polk. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. White, the defendant is your niece.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, your niece had been living with you.
Yes.
You went away on business for a couple of weeks. And it is your claim that either your niece or someone that she invited to your home destroyed some of your property. And the most expensive thing that was destroyed was your car.
Yes, a 95 Nissan Pathfinder.
And that was damaged because, according to you, the car was not in good running order, and you had brought it back to your home to just sit there until you could take care of it. It was not to be driven. Somebody, either the defendant or someone else, drove the car, and because it was driven with no oil, the engine seized or something happened to the engine.
Exactly.
And the engine has to be replaced. Ms. Polk said somebody else did it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. How long was your niece living with you?
Ebony moved in with me in March, the middle of March.
Why?
I took Ebony out of a bad situation, Judge, and I let her come and stay with me. I was taking Ebony to and from work until I started having the trouble with the Pathfinder, which was in June. It started leaking oil, and I was told that by the mechanic, I have here the estimate. I needed a real main seal rod bearing, a main bearing. Sure.
Because you're just reading that. You don't understand what all that is. Ladies usually don't understand what all this is. It just is it doesn't run.
Yes, but that's why the Jeep was parked.
That's why it was parked.
Exactly.
Okay. So the original estimate back in June was $1,650 for parts and labor.
Yes.
To fix the car at that time. So from middle of June until July the 6th, the car was just sitting.
Just sitting.
And your niece was living with you.
She was still there.
And you were not giving her rides to and from work in this car?
No, she had to catch city transit.
Okay, so far is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh. And then when you went away on July 6th, were you going there for business or pleasure?
No, business. And I was gone for 2 weeks at the group home. Ebony asked if her best friend, Brandy, could stay in the home with her while I was gone. I had no problem with that. When I returned, my Jeep wasn't parked the way I had left it. And I knew then it had been moved. When Ebony came home that afternoon, I asked her what happened. And she told me that they drove that Jeep. And she had it towed back to my house.
What happened when you drove the Jeep, Ebony?
Well, I wasn't driving the Jeep. My friend Brandy was driving the Jeep.
Were you the passenger?
Yes.
So it doesn't make any difference. The two of you were in the car. Why did you take the car?
Because the fight had broke out at the house because I had a party. And, you know, a fight had broke out at the house, and I just said I had to go. It was still early, so we got in the Jeep and we went riding.
But you knew that you couldn't use the Jeep because you
I
hadn't...
know. I already know.
What do you mean you know, you know?
I know. I know the Jeep. I didn't know it was messed up like that because when we got ready to get in the Jeep, an oil leak, I looked under the Jeep and see if it any oil on the concrete. It was no oil. So therefore, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was major like that. So we got in, started driving. Before we could get back to the house, it just stopped. I towed it back to the house. I got it back, I got it back to the, property fine and all right, but I feel like...
Well, you didn't get it back fine and all right. It had to be towed.
Well, it got back. It was better than leaving it on the side of the road.
You have another estimate for the car?
Exactly. Your Honor, not only that, Ebony went in my daughter's bedroom. I have a handicapped daughter. I had just bought her a 50 CD changer, took that child's stereo out, put it in the den. Now I'm left to buy her another stereo. They demolished that. 5 of her CDs were taken. Only the cases are left.
I was not responsible for that. It wasn't my fault. I did not know the CDs were gone.
For anything.
And I didn't know the stereo was messed up until she told me about it.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What kind of fight broke out in the house?
Well, it was a little scuffle, and when the scuffle happened, I told everybody they had to go.
Well, how many people were everybody?
It was only meant to be a few friends, few of Brandy's friends. It ended up being about 50, 60 people, and I knew that wasn't, I knew that wasn't even gonna work. So I told everybody they had to go.
She didn't have permission to have anybody in my house.
Well, listen to me.
I have here.
You made a big mistake.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I admit I did.
How old are you?
19.
Right.
I feel like it's not my fault. I ain't had nothing to do with it. I wasn't driving it. I feel like I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Well, what about the carpet and the furniture?
The carpet,
Don't answer her yet. I'm still adding.
I'm sorry.
Let us assume that the damages, Miss Polk, that your aunt is claiming to her carpet, to the CD changer, the CDs, which she has itemized at, well, it's less than $44.23. It's less than that because I'm deducting the original $16.50
Okay.
that you were going to be charged to fix the car. Let us assume that all of that is correct. Carpet got stained because somebody spilled wine on it.
I offered to clean it though, but she had a little attitude. I told her she had to wait till I got paid. But if she couldn't wait, she had an attitude. I got a mop and bleach and I tried to get it up. It was some stains, but I told her I was gonna get the stain cleaner. She couldn't wait, oh well.
Where are you living now?
I stay with my friend.
Good.
Thank you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rita White claims her niece Ebony Polk owes for the cost of a car engine and damage to her home. Rita says Ebony has a bad attitude.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I have here where I had my carpet and furniture cleaned. I have the receipt here. I've already paid for that. Ebony feels like she's not responsible for anything.
Yes, I know that. What are we going to do about that?
Well, she cannot come back in my home.
Perfect.
There's no way.
Good.
I don't want to come back anyway.
She
I'm
shouldn't
fine
come
right where
back
I'm
to
at.
your home. Look, you spent $270 on the carpet.
That was the carpet and the furniture, the love seat and sofa.
And what
together.
about this CD changer?
Yes, that cost $279.
Do you have a bill for it?
No, I don't have that. The original price was like $319, but it was 6 months old because I bought it for her 25th birthday.
That was not my fault.
Well, whose fault was it? Tell me. No,
The
I'm curious.
gentleman who was in there who started the scuffle.
But I didn't tell
Shh,
anyone.
just a second. You allowed those people into your home.
I didn't know it was gonna be that many. I did not know all those people was coming. Brandy knew all those people was coming.
Why-
I did not know. It
Why
was
didn't you
only
call-
supposed to have been a couple of people. Those was Brandy's friends. She is suing the wrong one.
Why didn't you call the police?
Because. Why?
What's a because?
Why? They were already gone. I didn't know who it was.
Listen to me. Some people are helpless. Some people are hopeless.
I am not hopeless.
Hopeless. Hopeless. Not helpless. Hopeless. Waste no more of your energy. You tried to do the right thing, didn't get there, doesn't get the message. She's got the attitude. It's never going to go away. You try to be a nice person. You said, invite your friend over. Don't stay alone. She abused your trust. She has no sense of right and wrong. She's 19 years old, so she's still young. But with that kind of an attitude, she's never going to change. Wash your hands and say, finito. And concentrate on your children, concentrate on your job, concentrate on what you do, concentrate on the fact that she owes you $3,038. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank
Parties
you.
are excused. You may step out.
The Jeep was not my fault, and I'm not paying for that. And she knew that, so oh well.
All I can say is I love her. I love her, and I'll continue to pray for her.
She should have been talking to Brandy about that because those were her friends. She drove the Jeep, and it's her fault. Oh well.
I tried hard for Ebony.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Blocker Thomas. Step forward, please.
35-year-old administrator Gina Johnson is suing 30-year-old nurse Crystal Blocker Thomas for the cost of a wedding veil.
Miss Johnson, were you and the defendant friends before you loaned her your veil, your
Yes,
wedding veil?
acquaintances for about 8 years.
Acquaintances, but not good friends.
No.
It's your complaint that you loaned her your wedding veil. She was getting married, and when she finally got around to returning it after many requests, it was ruined, and you want the value of it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'd like you to tell me when you agreed to loan her your veil.
We played basketball together in a women's basketball league, and our league had just ended. It was about March. And probably around the mid of March, we went to a restaurant and discussed that she was getting married sometime in July and how expensive it was to get married. And I explained to her that I knew a lot of ways to cut costs, and I had some items that she could borrow. And I had not heard from Crystal after we had that lunch until the morning of her wedding, and that was sometime in July. She called me at 6:45 a.m., spoke to my husband. She called back about 9:15 that morning, and I explained to her, you know.
What did she say to you when you spoke to her at 9 o'clock in the morning?
She says, "Hi, Gina, this is Crystal. I'm calling you because I would like to borrow your wedding veil. You remember when we had the conversation about borrowing the veil?" And I said, "Yes, I do." I said, "When do you get married?" She says, "Today." And I said,
So
"Well."
you were not really close friends because you weren't going to the wedding.
Right, correct.
So you're just acquaintances.
Right.
So go ahead.
And so when I talked to her on the phone, I said, "Well, Crystal, I have plans today. You know, you're getting married today. What time?" And I believe she said about 4 o'clock. And I'm a woman of my word. I said that she could borrow it. I was going to let her borrow it. I didn't want to leave her out. And so about that time, I told her, "Okay, I've got plans. You need to meet me closer to my home." She agreed to meet me I guess it was about noon. And I met her, gave her my veil in its original plastic bag on a hanger hanging in mint condition. And she got out of the car and across the street and gave her my veil. I said, "Congratulations. Get this back to me as soon as you can." She says, "No problem. Thank you."
Okay, so you had your wedding?
Yes.
Now you say she gave you the veil.
Yes.
Well, let me hear, because the wedding, it's clear that the veil must have come back in terrible condition, which you'll show me in a minute. Tell me about your recollection of the conversation that took place in July when you got married.
Okay, we were at Ken Ride's, and as she stated, we were talking about the wedding. Gina just openly said, "Crystal, if you need anything, I have so many things that I'm not going to use again. They're not, you know, they're going to be totally obsolete. So if you need anything, just call me, and I'll be more than willing to give you whatever I have." She said, "Because I know I'm not going to use it again." So I said, "Okay, well, I don't believe I need too much because I'm pretty much finished."
You called her the day of your wedding,
Yes.
and you told her you didn't have a wedding veil. Had you forgotten to get her a wedding veil?
No. Well, I guess I did forget because I wasn't going to wear a piece. I wasn't going to wear a headpiece.
And then you decided to wear a headpiece.
Right.
So you called her first thing in the morning.
No, I called her about because I went to go get my hair done first thing in the morning. And the way she did my hair, I realized a veil would probably look better.
So you called her and asked her for hers.
I asked her, did she have one? Because we never discussed that I would use her veil. I asked her, did she have one? And she said, as a matter of fact, I do.
When she gave you the veil, she gave it to you on a hanger?
She gave it to me on a hanger with 2 safety pins in it.
And it was covered with plastic.
A trash bag, not a bridal
It was
bag.
covered with plastic.
Yes.
And it was in perfect enough condition for you to use that day. I assume you used it. I assume you used it that day.
I didn't use the entire veil. I altered it.
What do you mean you altered it?
Because we let her know, because I was with my friend Tamara that dropped me out, that was doing the driving rather. And she let me know, Tamara let her know, this will
Where's
not work.
Tamara?
This is Tamara right here.
Step up. Did you ever tell the plaintiff that you were going to change, alter, cut, modify the veil?
Yes, ma'am, we did mention that day because when we...
No, I want you to tell me what you said, because she said she didn't say anything.
Well, when I looked at the veil, I said the headpiece would have to come off because of how Crystal's hair was done that day, because it's a headband type headpiece. It would not go over her hair.
And when did you tell that to the plaintiff?
Right when we got out the car, because we were both out of the car, and actually...
Did she tell you that?
No, Your Honor. The first time I saw her, she was behind the wheel. I had never spoke to her.
Did they ever tell you that they were going to do anything to alter your headpiece?
No, Your Honor.
Of course not. Let me see how they returned it, please.
Your Honor, and I also have my friend Teresa Cackley, who is here as a witness, who heard the original conversations.
I don't care what the original conversation was. Nobody gives a stranger their wedding veil. Now, when it was returned to you, I read your complaint, and you said that this is just a piece of... Where's the whole piece?
She still has it, Your Honor, and that's a headpiece.
This is the actual headpiece.
When it was returned to you, it was returned to you in a garbage bag full of other things?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why?
I didn't return it to her. My husband brought it to the gym because she was talking badly about me to her.
So she wanted her wedding veil back. Why didn't
Okay.
you give it back to her?
She let me have it. Why would I give it back if she let me have it?
Listen, is that also a piece from her wedding veil?
No, this is how we auctioned it. This is the actual necklace that went on the veil. As you can see, we just...
Just a minute. Was that originally on the veil when she gave it to
This?
you?
No.
That?
No.
That was your piece?
Yes.
Now, this has nothing to do with money. So I want you just to answer my question. Do you have all the pieces now that you had from your veil?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
What is missing?
As you can see, someone picked the pearls off of the back of it. You can see where some of them were glued here, and they've been removed off the veil.
So there's no way that, I mean, you're going to get your money. There's no way you're not going to get your money, whatever the cost of the veil was, because Miss Thomas is not operating with a full deck. I never heard of any young woman who thought that she borrowed either a wedding dress from an acquaintance, not a friend, not a best friend, not somebody who was invited to the wedding, from an acquaintance, borrowed a wedding veil, borrowed shoes, borrowed a bag, and then said, oh, it's mine. I can now treat it like garbage. You're absolutely outrageous, and your husband is a bigger slob by returning it in that garbage bag to her with some old dead flowers in it. Was there wedding cake in there, too?
Your Honor, that is her bouquet that she returned and did not know it was in the bag. And that's the only way I could get her to return my calls, that she wanted her bouquet back.
Really? Why did you want your bouquet back? No. Just answer my, don't think about it. Just tell me, why did you want your bouquet back?
Because it's my bouquet. And
oh! So it's your bouquet.
Right.
And you want it back. Sue for it. Sue for it. I want you to listen to me very carefully. You're going to be unsuccessful.
Okay.
You want to know why? Because your husband gave it to her.
Well, she gave me her veil.
No, she didn't.
She never
No,
said it was
no, she
alone.
didn't. You just told me your husband gave her this entire bag. I am finding that she loaned you the veil, which you destroyed. But it's so interesting to me, Miss Thomas, that you say, well, it's my bouquet from my wedding. I want it back. And you can't understand why really a stranger who was being nice to you gave you her wedding veil, which is expensive, which was lovely, and you think, she gave it to me, and I don't have to give it back to her. So, you want those flowers? I suggest you file a lawsuit. I hope it doesn't come before me, because if it comes before me, you're not going to get it back because your husband gave it to her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested. The veil is worth at least $220.
Of character.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 589 on the calendar in the matter of Clymer versus Culp. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mrs. Clymer, is this your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to know who the players were. According to your complaint, the defendant, who is the current girlfriend of your soon-to-be ex-husband,
Yes, ma'am.
drove your car without permission when you weren't home one weekend and blew the engine on the car. You want her to replace the engine.
Yes.
There is a counterclaim by Ms. Culp for defamation. She says that you've been spreading nasty rumors about her. So, when were you and your husband married?
December 14th, 1999.
So it's a short-term marriage.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have no children together.
No, we do not.
Do you have any children of your own?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
28 and 25.
So they don't live with you.
No, they don't.
Mr. Clymer, does he have children?
Yes, he does.
Were they living with you at the time
Yes,
that
they
you
are.
were together?
Yes.
How old are they?
17 and 15.
When did this incident happen with the car?
Approximately on a Saturday. I left town.
What date?
I think it was around the 28th.
Of what month?
December.
Now, on December 28th, were you and your husband still living together
Yes,
as man
ma'am,
and wife?
we were. 2 days after Christmas. And then I left town to take my $2 back to Emmett and visit my mom.
Okay, so on the 27th, you had a discussion with him about divorcing. I assume that that didn't come as a shock to you.
Yes, it did, ma'am.
It did?
Yes, it
You didn't
did.
know anything was wrong?
No, I did not.
Did you ask him why?
Yes, I did.
What did he say?
Because I didn't make him Rice Krispie bars. I didn't go to church. And just ridiculous comments why he wanted a divorce.
So you got in your car and you left.
Well, that following morning I left.
So you left on the 28th.
Yeah, I think it was Friday morning. Yeah.
When did you return home?
Sunday evening.
Okay, and according to your complaint, when you returned home, the defendant was there.
Yes, ma'am.
Had you known her before?
No, I do not. I don't even know who she is.
She's never laid eyes on me before today, Your Honor.
Should I get down to the...
No, I don't want
Okay.
to. You found her in your house.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what did you do when you found her in your house?
I went to the police station and asked her if she would be removed from my premises.
And they said?
It was community property and
Right,
it
and
was
he could have any guests that he wanted in the house.
That's right.
Now, when you were married in 1999, was this your house or was it your husband's house?
No, ma'am, we just bought this house a week prior to this incident.
Really?
Yes, we did.
And it's in both your names?
It's in his name, but the money that went in this house came from my house in Emmett that I sold.
How much money?
Around $9,000.
How much was the house?
59.
Why didn't you have the house put in both names? I'm just curious.
They said, I even asked him at the time, I said, is my name going to be on the deed? And they said, well, it's community property estate. You are still reliable for this house. And I says, I want to know. I want my name on that deed,
How old are you?
48.
The last house, the house that you sold, was that in your name?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Were you married at the time you had that house to someone else?
No. I bought that singly.
Okay, so you know about putting your name on a deed?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I even asked the realtor, I said, I would like to have my name on that deed. They said, it doesn't matter. You know?
Okay. All right. You're currently going through a divorce. Your husband is in the house?
No, I am in the house.
You're in the house now?
Yes.
So he had other place to go?
Yes, he did.
Fine. All right, now tell me about this car. You drove a car while you were there for that weekend.
Yes, I did.
Why?
The car belongs to Bob's daughter. I was driving the car because it needed to be serviced. Martha was out of town. Therefore, she couldn't drive the car. I left Athena the keys to my vehicle so she could go to work. She handed me her keys to her vehicle, which I in turn went to go pick him up from work to take the car to be serviced and then return it to Athena's work so that I could trade my car back. The car never made it past Kimberly Road, which is approximately 3 miles from the destination.
Okay. Mrs. Clymer, what kind of car is this so I can...
It's a 95 Kia Sophia.
Was that your stepdaughter's car?
We give it to her to drive back and forth to work and also back and forth to school.
So it was a gift to your stepdaughter?
Yes.
Martha,
Fine,
Your
then
Honor,
you
does not even have a set of
just a
keys
sec.
to this car.
Shh. It was a gift to your stepdaughter. You can't sue her. It's a gift. You made a gift to your stepdaughter, you and your husband. That car belongs to the child, and I assume that if the car is going to be fixed, it's going to be fixed by him. So don't take out your anger on him against your stepdaughter. That's ridiculous. So get over that. Let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is that Mrs. Clymer is telling people around town that you broke up her marriage and you're a home wrecker.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's true.
I'm not sure.
Truth is a perfect defense. You
Your
know,
Honor,
you got to
their
wait
marriage was
until the
already-
body is cold.
Your Honor, their marriage was over before I even came into the picture.
I didn't know
even
that. That's what he
Robert
told you.
Clymer.
Listen
I
to
didn't
me.
even know Robert Clymer until October of this last year.
Listen to me. She was living there up until December 25th, right?
Yes.
He was living there up until December 25th, right?
Yes.
She goes away on December 28th, and you come over. That's 3 days. That doesn't mean the marriage is over. That means he may have told you that the marriage was over, but you knew you couldn't call the house. You didn't call the house there prior to that time, did you?
They don't have a home phone.
You didn't go over there to visit, did you, before
No.
that time?
I did come into town, yes. I
Okay,
knew
whether you went
the
into
whole
town,
family before I even met him.
Listen to me. He would meet you elsewhere, and you still knew that he was living together with his wife.
Yes.
So this is a bit more interesting than not making Rice Krispie balls.
You're right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Martha Clymer says her estranged husband's girlfriend, Renee Culp, drove her car without permission and blew up the engine.
All right. So truth is a perfect defense. And you probably did have something to do with the termination of the marriage. He found somebody else that made better Rice Krispies anyway. But that doesn't mean that she can't go around town telling people that you wrecked her home, because in her mind you did, and probably had something to do with it. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Give him back the car. Sign it over to him. Do you understand? Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She is hostile and upset by the fact that I am now seeing her husband.
Coming home and finding those two in bed, and, you know.
Can you prove that it was me? She never even saw my face before today, and her allegation of catching us in bed, she's wrong.
Stand up for your rights.
Be careful.
Don't listen to your ex-husband.
I just want it all over with.
And now the next case.
All parties on Dorr versus Dykstra. Step forward, please.
40-year-old homemaker Diane Dorr is suing her former landlord, 50-year-old engineer Richard Dykstra, for disposing of her personal property, the return of her security deposit, and emotional distress.
Ms. Dorr, the defendant was your landlord.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, he evicted you, and you want him to return your security deposit, which I think was $700. Yes. You claim that he disposed of property of yours, and you also were suing him for $500 for your stress. So let me get some facts. When did you commence a lease with Mr. Dykstra?
July of '99.
And what was your rent?
$650.
$650 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, and you agree with that, Mr. Dykstra, that you put down that security deposit?
I agree.
And when were you served with an eviction notice?
On April 4th, 2001.
Do you have a copy of that?
I sure do.
I'd like to see it, please.
He left it on the gate. I don't know that that matters, but I don't have a problem with moving out anyway. Pretty much lived through hell
Just
there.
one moment. So you gave a 30 days notice effective 4/4/01?
That's when I filed with the Sheriff's Department, and the Sheriff did not deliver this until the 9th of April, and I took that into account with the 30-day period.
So you were to be out of the apartment by May 9th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you out on or before May 9th?
Apparently, he says I wasn't. He went over there, and I would lie to you if I told you the date. I wasn't there because I was pregnant and not allowed to be out of bed. I begged the man.
What do you mean I'm not allowed to be out of bed?
I wasn't supposed to be out of bed.
Just a minute. So where were you?
I was at the new place.
So you moved out to a new place. When did you move out?
I started within 3 weeks of that notice after trying to beg him for a month extra. He would not give it to me. He wouldn't give me a reason. I said, fine, I'm just going to go. I can't handle this. Figured I'd clean the place, get everything out, right? I'm at the new place going back and forth to the hospital. I hired somebody to come in and clean it.
Okay, just one second. So let me understand this. You did, in fact, move out prior to May the 9th.
Yes.
Physically, you physically.
Physically. I left
But you
when he
left-
attacked me and my children. Not physically. I left because of that. Yes, I did. He cussed me out, and I left. I was
Fine.
afraid.
Good. So you left, and is what you're saying is that there was property of yours left after May 9th in the apartment?
No, I believe it was before that. After May 9th, I never went back. He locked the doors on May 9th, changed
Good.
the locks.
Now, is the property that you're complaining of that was disposed of by the defendant property that was there at the time he changed the locks on May 9th?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you're not entitled to that back. Stuff that's considered abandoned. So we've just dealt with that. Now, you said you hired a cleaning crew.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You weren't at the house on May 9th?
I might have been there once. I wasn't there when he came in and pushed them out and changed the lock. I was not
That
there.
was on May 9th?
Yeah.
On the date that you were supposed to be out? And you still had people cleaning in the apartment?
Yeah.
So he said what?
Your Honor, she paid for the month of April. Okay, so that was covered. That wasn't the problem. Starting May 1st, there was no rent being paid. I gave her to the 9th, actually to the 10th, and so I was losing $20 a day at this point.
He had $700 in
Just
deposit.
a second. Go. Speak.
So after I saw the progress her so-called cleaning crew was making, which was very, very slow, I have pictures here, Your Honor, and I'd like you to take a look at
So do I.
of the house.
Miss Dorr.
And,
Miss Dorr, listen to me very carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't want to display erratic kind of behavior, do you?
Okay. No.
You are.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I have pictures of the house, and the cleaning crew was moving very, very slow.
You mean
So-
on May, do you have pictures of the house on May 9th or May 10th?
Yes.
I see them, please.
And rather than lose $20 a day and wait for these people to do what they were doing very slowly, I thought it was in the best interest of myself to just perform the cleaning myself. So I asked them to leave. I said, that's fine. It's a good enough job. Just go on your way.
Now, Mr. Dykstra, are these the two sofas that she claims that were left behind?
Yes, ma'am. Anything that was left in the house at that period, I moved out into the garage. I did change all the locks on the house, but I allowed them access to the garage until everything was taken out of that garage.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Did they take these two
Yes, they did.
couches? They did?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
As you could see, if there was any cleaning done, it's not apparent in the pictures.
Maybe it was worse.
Could have been.
Didn't you ever clean the stove?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that those pictures came from the next door place. That wasn't my stove. I have papers where an inspector came in and says that everything was good in that house. She said I had the cleanest stove she had ever saw. It's documented here.
Oh, let me see that.
Just
a second. I'd like to see that.
Okay, I'm gonna send them with Bert. And a thing where I had the carpet cleaned in the year that I was there, year and 9 months. These are also pictures of what we were breathing and some of the stuff coming out of there that had damaged a lot of the walls and carpets. I lived there for a month without heat and continued to pay my rent because I don't want to be a bad person. You know what I mean? So I paid the rent, lived there while we breathed that. My kids were sick and going back and forth to the hospital breathing that stuff.
Well, you should have moved out sooner.
Well, we tried. I did the best I could, but I understand, and you're right, I should have. From what I could, he was on my property every day drinking. I'm an alcoholic, so it really had offended me when he did that. Before that, he was cutting the locks off.
Do you see me looking at you? Would you please point out to me where it says here, madam, that you had the cleanest stove the inspector had ever seen?
Well, she mentioned it.
Would you point that out to me? I'd like to see it.
I don't know if it's on here.
Well, just
maybe.
take a look. That's what you were giving me.
She didn't. She said it to me then. It wasn't written, but it doesn't say anything's ruined in there.
I asked you to answer my question.
Okay, it doesn't say it.
Okay. You want to show me, sir, a list of things that you claim that you spent money on to put this apartment back in condition to re-rent?
Yes, Your Honor. I have two separate ones here. The initial one is the one that I sent to the plaintiff. The second one you have there is one I just did the other day with the actual expenses. She had a young pup, and it made a mess of the carpet, and I thought it could be cleaned, but I had to replace it after that. So even prorating the carpet over 5 years, for her 2 years, I still come up with a lot more that she owed me than I owe her. The rest was just little incidentals, mini blinds. I'm talking $20 here. You can't find a mini blind for $20. I'm not gouging her in any way.
Look, I just want you to tell me, sir, how much you spent on somebody coming in and doing a general cleaning in the apartment.
I cleaned it myself. That's what it would have cost me to do something like that.
I just wanted to tell him about the blinds. When I had moved in, he told me I put a dog door in for the dog could go have access.
Yeah.
And we had cut them. That's where he's talking about the damage, so the dog would be above it. He said that was okay, don't worry, because once you'd lived there for a year, the blinds paid for themselves. Otherwise, I would have bought new ones and sat them in there.
Oh, I've seen places that look worse. Seen places that look better, but places that look worse as well. I want to get to your stress complaint, Ms. Dorr. I usually don't entertain that. I gather that you were living there for a while and that you complained several times about other neighbors, 2 other neighbors in particular, according to the defendant. One neighbor you said was selling drugs, and you evicted that person. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
And then the plaintiff had somebody that she thought would be a good tenant, somebody that was going to do some babysitting for her.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you rented to that person.
Yes, I did. They were good tenants.
And what happened to that tenant?
They babysat for the county, and that was their major portion of their income. And after they quit watching the plaintiff's child for free, they thought they was being taken advantage of. She responded by calling the Child Protective Services and filed a complaint that said her son had been sexually abused by their son. So therefore, they lost their license, they lost their income, and they had to move.
Is there any reason other than those 2 instances why you decided to evict the plaintiff?
After 2 tenants and initially not knowing who to believe, Diane is very good at making, she's very convincing.
Not to me.
Okay. Well, I had a hard time at first, so I didn't know who to believe, the other tenant or her. And so I gave her the benefit of the doubt at the first time. But on the second instance, after that, it was obvious who was telling the lies here. And it cost me a couple months' rent there, plus fixing up the other places. And then when I evicted Diane, it cost me a month's rent there, and I had to fix that place up. Pretty soon, you have to look out for your own well-being.
Okay. Tell me about your stress, Miss Dorr.
I'm not even going to bother because obviously you believe him. He had those places rented the day we were out of there.
Good.
All of them were, so.
Oh, well, that's great.
But I have copies of police reports, and I didn't call Children's Services. The school did. My son reported it to the school what had happened. And I don't know if I'd call it sexual abuse. It was the little boy on top of him. And if my son needs to tell the school that, I'm not going to tell him to be quiet.
Okay. Well, Mr. Dykstra, let me tell you this, sir. When a tenant moves out, things are never really perfect. You certainly are entitled to cleanup fees. I don't care who did it, whether you did it or whether someone else performed the service of cleaning up this mess, and there was a mess. And if you had a crew in to clean it up, they would have charged you at least $250 to clean it up, because that's more than 1 day's work for one person. It's more like 1 day's work for 3 people. Now, right now, $513 is the amount that I have that's deducting what she owed you for May's rent.
That's correct.
Or she chose not to be out by the 1st of May. If you were out the 1st of May, then you wouldn't have to pay any part of May's rent. And I'm also going to deduct from that $250 for the mess that you left behind, leaving $263. And I believe that you should give that back to her from her security deposit, and that's what I'm ordering. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $263. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I never threatened her kid, no.
I just think it's lousy that a landlord gets to screw somebody over.
1-year-old Nikki Hanna. She is also suing Jennifer's mother, Patricia Mitchell, and Nikki's father, Kobe Hanna. Brooke says Jennifer and Nikki stole the keys to her car and then wrecked it.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 52 on the calendar in the matter of Morrow versus Mitchell Hannah. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Which one are you?
Mitchell.
Your first name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, that's not an appropriate way to come to court. If you ever have to go to court again, you don't come to court showing your midriff. Do you understand? It's inappropriate. That's much better. Again. Try it again. Good. Miss Morrow, you were at a friend's house. According to your complaint, these two girls took off in your car without your permission and wrecked it. You want them and their parents to be responsible for that.
Right.
And there is no question on the other side that you did not have her permission to drive the car at that time. Is that right?
I thought we did.
I didn't care what you thought. Neither one of you had permission to drive her car at that time. One of you took the keys and one of you was driving. Is that correct?
Yes.
So all you have to do, Miss Morrow, is hand me the estimate. The car's not running anymore?
No.
Okay, good. So I have the Blue Book breakdown for the car. Okay, you were at a friend's house. Your car is parked outside. Who's going to talk first?
I will.
Fine.
Okay, we were all at my house, and Nikki got mad at Brooke. Well, she wasn't really mad.
Nikki
She was
got mad
upset.
at the plaintiff.
Yes, because of boy problems.
Could you
And-
keep your voice up, please?
I'm sorry. And she wanted to talk to me, so I said, let's go for a walk. And we went back in the house, and I told everybody that we were going to go for a walk, and she went back into, like, by my room. And we went back outside and walked around my house, and when we were walking outside my house, she handed me Brooke's keys. And I said, what are you doing? And she's all, we're going to take Brooke's car. I said, well, does Brooke know? Because I don't want to take her car without her knowing. And she said, yeah, she knows. I asked her when we went back inside. I didn't really think it was that big of a deal because Brooke lets us drive her car all the time. So I was just like, okay, because she wanted to talk to me. So we got in the car and we started driving.
Who's we driving?
I was driving.
How old are you?
15.
So you have no license?
No.
Go ahead.
And we were driving around neighborhoods, and as I was making a left-hand turn, Nikki says to me, get on the curb and let's have some fun. And I was like, no, 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 don't be stupid. I don't want to get in a car accident. And as I was making the turn, she turned the wheel.
I did not grab the wheel, Your Honor.
Don't speak yet.
And then we ran into the house. And
You ran into a house with her car?
Yeah.
Idiot. All right, now let's see your version of what happened.
What happened was me and Jenny were outside of her house, and we were sitting there talking, and she was mad because of this guy that she was talking to, her ex-boyfriend. He was there, and he was getting ready to go to a girl's house, and she said, Nikki, go get the keys. And I said, okay. I went and got him out of the bathroom, and I came back and I handed them to her, and she said, okay, let's go. So we...
All right, let's stop right there. Miss, it wasn't my fault. I had nothing to do with it. She told you to go get the keys.
Yes.
And you went into the bathroom. You didn't go to the plaintiff and say, can I have the car keys? Can I borrow your car?
No.
You just went into the bathroom. Now, where in the bathroom were her car keys?
They were on the sink.
And I assume you had seen them there before.
Yes.
Because that's not usually where you keep car keys, on the bathroom sink, right?
No.
Okay, and how old are you?
I'm 16.
So you went inside, did not get permission
No.
from anybody, just took the car keys, came outside, and gave them to your friend. Now, do you have a driver's license?
No, I don't.
So you took the keys, gave them to her,
Yes.
unlicensed, and you took off.
Yes.
Now, tell me what happened when you took off.
We went driving around, and we went into this country club area. It was really nice, and we were driving, and she said, let's go up on the curb. And I was like, you can do whatever, but be careful. And so she was going around a corner, and I guess she lost control and stepped on the gas instead of the brake, and we hit the house on the corner. And as soon as we had wrecked, she said, I accidentally stepped on the gas instead of the brake.
I never said that. It's not really what happened.
And then we got out and
All
we
right, now, which parent belongs to this genius? Stand up, please. Your last name is Mitchell?
Yes.
I would like you to, in 30 seconds or less, tell me why your daughter isn't responsible for half the damage.
Is not responsible?
Yeah.
She is responsible for half the damage.
That's right. Have a seat. You're Mr. Hannah?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to tell me in 30 seconds or less why your daughter isn't responsible for half the damage?
For one, she wasn't the driver of the vehicle, and At 12:30 at night, I expect my daughter, when she's spending the night at a friend's house, to be at that friend's house and not be leaving. The next morning when I went over to the house to pick the kids up, there's empty beer containers and a keg of beer in the living room floor.
What does that have to do with us stealing car keys and going for a joyride in somebody's car? Nobody's alleging that anybody was drunk.
I didn't
Your
say
daughter
that.
didn't say that she was drunk or the other girl was drunk. What does one thing have to do with another?
She wasn't driving the vehicle.
She stole the keys. She stole the keys. What word would you like me to explain to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think that you're pretty stupid to have allowed, even in the past, either of these two girls to drive your car. And if you're going to do stupid things, you got to be prepared for the consequences.
And later today,
I banged on the roof of the car. I cursed at her.
He was enraged and asked me to open up my driver's side door. And I told him, what are you, crazy? I'm not opening up my door.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Brooke Morrow says former friends, 15-year-old Jennifer Mitchell and 16-year-old Nikki Hanna, stole the keys to her car and wrecked it. Jennifer and Nikki are blaming each other for the accident.
Okay, she stole the keys and gave it to the person who drove the car, and she went with her.
She didn't put a gun to her head and say, you have to drive.
Let me explain something to you, sir. I assume that you are not in the legal profession. So let me explain something to you. If two people are walking in the street and they see a brand new car, and one of them says, I'm going to jimmy open the door. When I do, you get in and drive, and we're going to take this car for a drive. And that's what they do. They are equally as guilty. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, your daughter went into a house, stole somebody else's keys, because when you take something without permission, that is a theft. Gave them to her co-conspirator, who happened to drive the car. But your daughter is 16, and your daughter knows that she doesn't have a license to drive a car, shouldn't be driving a car. So not only did your daughter steal the car keys, but she gave the car keys to somebody who she knew shouldn't be driving and got in the car and drove with her. So they are equally as responsible. I want to know who paid for the damage that was done to the house.
The homeowner's insurance paid for that.
What a shame. I would have loved to have had that case. When did you get this car?
August of 2000.
It was a gift?
Yeah,
Who bought it for you?
my grandparents.
How much did they pay for it?
$1,000.
Who did they buy it from?
My stepdad.
So they got a good deal, right? You got a good deal on the car, because its present wholesale value is, according to this, $1,250.
Yeah, he knocked off a couple hundred.
Of course he did. Now, I have one question to ask you. Well, maybe two. Have you given permission at any other time for either of these two girls to drive your car?
Yes,
Why?
just being nice, just letting them, just for fun.
How old are you?
19.
I want you to listen to me very carefully. You risk everything when you let somebody drive your car that is unlicensed. Not only do you risk them having a serious accident and hurting somebody, and you would be responsible for that, but if they were in an accident, your insurance company wouldn't cover that. They would say, sue her. I assume you don't have a lot of money right now, but someday you will, and if you're going to do stupid things, you got to be prepared for the consequences. Anyway, I just changed my mind. I was going to give you the wholesale value of the car. I'm just knocking it down to $1,000 that was paid for the car, because I think that you're pretty stupid to have allowed, even in the past, either of these two girls to drive your car. And I'm awarding you $1,000, and each of the girls will pay $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They had ran my car into a house and it was totaled.
I didn't touch the wheel.
They stole it and wrecked it. And
She did. Grab the wheel.
we're not friends anymore.
And we
We're
aren't
not
friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Brosnan versus Rios. Step forward, please.
Food service worker Kathleen Brosnan is suing New York firefighter Stephen Rios for kicking her car in a fit of road rage.
Miss Brosnan, it is your claim that the defendant, while in a fit of road rage, caused some damage to your car by punching it or kicking it.
Yes.
You didn't know him before?
No.
You were just driving along a parkway?
Yes.
Is that right? Mr. Rios seems to acknowledge that he lost his temper on that day. He was having a bad day, but he said he caused no damage to your car. So, tell me when this happened.
On September 22nd.
Where?
On the Southern State Parkway.
Can you hold on one sec? Stand still, because you're making me a little
Okay.
woozy.
The Southern State Parkway at exit 17.
And did you get on at exit 17?
No. I was driving on the Parkway and the incident had happened at exit 17.
What incident?
The incident where he had chased me and kicked my car.
Tell me about him chasing your car.
Okay. I was driving on the Parkway on September 22nd. I was going to my boyfriend's job. And around exit 17, I noticed that Mr. Rios was a little bit too close behind my car. So I sped up a little bit to let him know that he was too close to me. And when I did that, he sped up too. And after he sped up, I went to turn on my right-hand signal to change lanes.
You were driving in the fast lane?
Yes. And I wanted to get in the right-hand lane over at the other side. And Mr. Rios did the same thing and almost cut me off. And then I proceeded to go into the next lane.
So you were driving in the fast lane, the speeding, they strike speeding lane, the passing lane.
Yes.
And he was behind you, and then you got over to the middle lane.
Yes.
And he got over to the middle lane.
Yes.
And then you got over to the far right lane.
Yes.
The slow lane, the granny lane.
Yes.
Did he follow you over to the granny lane?
Yes, he did. And I proceeded to, you know, I sped away to get away from him.
A little nervous? Okay, take a breath. What exit did you get off the Parkway?
I got off the Parkway at exit 32.
And what happened when you got off at exit 32?
When I get off at exit 32, I was ready to go to sit for a red light, and I didn't notice Mr. Rios behind me. Mr. Rios sped his car in front of mine to cut me off, and I slammed on the brake so that I don't cause an accident. And when he did this, he proceeded to get out of his van, and he cursed me and asked me to open up my driver's side door. And I told him, "What are you, crazy? I'm not opening up my door." So after this, he was enraged, and after that, he had kicked my car.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kathleen Brosnan says fellow motorist Stephen Rios chased her down and kicked her car in a fit of road rage. Stephen admits he lost his temper, but claims he caused no damage.
Okay. Now, what time of the day or night was this?
1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So it was light out?
Uh-huh.
Can I see the damage to the car, please?
It's right there.
And you were driving alone?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Rios. Now I'll hear you, sir.
It certainly didn't follow her at exit 17 or 19 because I didn't get on the Southern State Parkway until approximately exit 26. I commute the same way. I've been driving here for over 22 years coming home from work. I observed the gray car get onto the Parkway at somewhere around exit 27, I thought. They were one of those people, they're bobbing in the right lane, left lane, trying to get nowhere, going nowhere fast. At that point, I observed the car, what I perceived was probably going to try to squeeze in front of me with not enough room. So I tried to, you know, move up a little bit so they wouldn't come in. They cut in front of me. After about maybe a quarter mile, you know, we were 2 feet off each other's bumper.
No. We weren't 2 feet off each other's bumper,
right.
Mr. Rios. You were 2 feet off her bumper.
Right. She squeezed in front of me.
No, she squeezed in front of you, and then you were 2 feet off her bumper. You're not 2 feet off each other's bumper.
But there was maybe 20 feet between me and the car in front of me. So I perceived she squeezed in front of me with not enough room to be in a safe driving area.
I'm following you, but then you said you were proceeding.
Right. We
and you were proceeding, and you were on her tail.
Yes.
All right. I got it.
At that point in time, I didn't realize whether it was a guy or a girl. They were hitting their brakes. I decided to move into the right lane, get away from it. The car started making 4 or 5 attempts to actually cut me off. At that point in time, they were so close to me, I actually thought they made contact with my car. As we got up to exit 32, I saw the car get off the ramp. I followed them off the ramp, and right off the ramp, there was a stop sign. So I cut in front of the car and jumped out because I thought they were trying to get away. When I got to the window, I realized it was a woman, and she closed the window. She was cursing me, giving me the finger. So I banged on the roof of the car. I cursed at her and then drove away. At the next light, she was behind me now. She got out of her car and approached my window. I got out. We exchanged words in the street, and that was what I thought was the end of it.
By the way, what exit do you get off at to go to your home?
I get off at exit 42. I take the Parkway to the end, and then I have to continue further on.
So you actually exited the Parkway at that point to follow the plaintiff?
No, I did not exit to follow her.
Yes, you did. You exited to follow the plaintiff.
I believe she had struck my car, so I got...
No, Mr. Rios.
please, I don't want you to make up any stories, sir.
I am not making
That's
up any
making
stories.
up a story.
No.
If you drive and commute every day, you know whether somebody hits your car or not. And you exited the parkway because you were angry. That's not your exit.
I actually believed that she made contact with my vehicle, and I was scared for my life. I'd been commuting for over...
Mr. Shh, please. Mr. Rios, I read your answer. I mean, if you stick with your answer, maybe you'll be successful here today so that you won't get pulverized. Your answer was that you had a very bad day and that you lost your temper. Well, that's what you said.
No.
Yeah, that's what you said.
I did not say I had a very bad day.
Well, I would suggest, sir, your answer was you were returning from a funeral of a fellow firefighter.
Right.
Okay, on that day. That's a bad day. That wasn't an ordinary work day. That was a bad day. And you say you lost your temper. And you say you acknowledge hitting her car.
Yeah,
you acknowledge hitting her car. Your
defense
defense is that you didn't cause any damage.
I had been commuting for over 20 years, the same route. I've never had an experience like this in my life. And I actually thought she made contact with my car. She was so close to me.
Mr.
I
Rios.
followed her off the parkway to stop her because I thought she was trying to get away. And then I banged on the roof of her car, yes.
Now, Mr. Rios, you followed her off the parkway because you thought she was trying to get away.
Right.
Then you got out of your car, and what did you do?
I approached the car.
You got out of your car, and the first thing you did was approach her car.
Yes.
And what did she say to you?
She had the windows rolled up, and she was making gestures with the window closed up.
Okay, and then you hit her, according to you, the roof of her car, the hood of her car. Is that right? And then what is the very next thing you did?
I walked away.
You walked away where?
I walked to my car, got in my car, and actually drove away.
Okay. Now, Mr. Rios, did you tell me every single thing that happened from the time you followed her off the parkway until the time you got back into your car?
Yes.
What happened, Mr. Rios, to your examining your car to see if it was damaged in any way? Where's that step, Mr. Rios? If what you say is true, that you followed her off the parkway because you thought she had damaged your car, the first thing that you do once you cut her off is to take a look and see, is my car damaged or is my car not damaged? If my car is not damaged, then I get back into my car and I go away. If you're making up a story, which is exactly what you did, then you don't even bother to look at your car.
No, I'm not making up a story.
Does that sound logical to you, Bert?
Totally.
Totally. Let me see an estimate, please. Mr. Rios, you lost your temper. Lost your temper, you pay for the damage. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $543.15. She didn't pay you back. You want
No.
your money back.
Yes.
Ms. Lugo says that you were a good friend to her. You gave her $3,500. You would come into some money. There was never any discussion of payback. As far as she was concerned, it was a gift.
That's
That's
true.
true.
Differ.
When did you graduate from high school, Ms. Lugo?
In June of 2001.
And between June of 2001 and the date of this loan or gift, which was on what date?
Last year, around August or July.
How often did you see each other?
After high school, we didn't see each other because we stopped being friends. And after she had a really bad car accident, her mom came and I started being her friend again. That's when we started.
What year?
I honestly do not recall what year she had a car accident.
What year?
It was in 2002, Your Honor.
Now, tell me about the day you approached Miss Serrano with your money troubles.
I did not approach her. I was just telling her my problems that I had with my family.
Shh, I don't. Listen, if you interrupt again, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand?
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just told her I was having really hard times with my parents. I was having a lot of financial problems.
What kind of financial problems were you having, Miss Lugo?
My mom stopped making the payments, so they took my car from me.
How old are you?
23.
Why was your mother making your car payments for you?
Because we're both on the loan, and I was giving her the money, and she was making the payments out of her account.
What were you working for at the time?
Bay Cities National Bank.
So why weren't you paying the money directly?
Because that was just an arrangement that I had with my mom.
Your money?
I'm not saying she stole the money. I'm just saying that she wasn't making the payments, and they took the car from me.
So you're saying that if you gave your mother the money and your mother wasn't making the car payments,
She was using it for something else.
That she stole your money?
I guess.
And you told Ms. Serrano that your mother stole your money and they repossessed your car?
I told Patricia the problems that I was having with my parents and why they took my car from me.
Miss Lugo, I don't hear that that's a problem that you're having with your parents. If I believe what you're telling me, which I don't, you're telling me that your mother stole the money that you were giving her for your car loan and using it for her own purposes
and therefore they repossessed your car and you wanted to get it back.
Right.
Now, is that what you want me to believe?
That's the truth. That's exactly how everything's
When did you
always
move
been.
out of your mother's house?
Early September.
So you stayed in your mother's house another year after she stole your money?
Actually,
see where
I
I'm going? So you had more financial difficulties than just this alleged theft by your mother of your money.
I couldn't just leave my house and just leave everything, like all my parents and my sisters behind.
Well, if I were living with somebody that stole my money and as a result of that my car was repossessed, I certainly wouldn't live there.
In June, I actually drove to Vegas and I was going to move over there with my cousin.
That's June 2006. We're still talking about 10 months that you were living with your mother, the thief, if I believe you. Which
Right, I
don't.
really didn't have a choice. I mean, I am a
Okay, you're
I'm a
23 years old.
student.
You always have a choice. Okay, now I'm going to get to you, Miss Serrano. Now that I'm getting the personalities in order.
Yes.
Tell me what happened when she approached you in August of 2005 about this money.
Well, she told me the story that her car had gotten repossessed.
Did she tell you how it got repossessed?
Well, she didn't give me a straight answer. I never really did get straight answers from her.
That's a lie.
Don't interrupt. Go ahead.
You know, she came to me, she said, Patty, I haven't been able to make the payments. My mom and my dad aren't helping me out. I just don't have anywhere else to go to for money.
That's not true.
And I said, well, if you need help, feel free to come to me. She said, well, thank you so much. And a couple of days later, she came to me. She said, Patty, I need to take you up on your offer. Can you lend me $3,500? And I said, sure thing, I'll write you a check. And I'm not too sure if it was a day or two later that she said, it's too much trouble to go about, you know, with the check. I can't cash it. She even told me that her mom had found the check and was questioning her about the check.
That's not true.
Why, you know, why I was giving her a check for $3,500. And she said, well, I'll give you back the check, and can you please give me $3,500 in cash? I said, wow, you know, I'm like, okay, let me see what I can work out. And I went to the bank, withdrew $3,500 cash.
Let me see from your bank. The
Yeah,
withdrawal.
it's right here. It's highlighted in yellow.
Where did you get all this money from?
I was involved in a very serious car accident in 2002, and I got a small settlement out of it.
A large settlement.
Oh, that's interesting, Miss Lugo. Did you say a large settlement? How large?
I don't know.
When you said it was a large settlement, you must know something about the settlement.
That's all she would always say. She got a large settlement. Never wanted to ask
I never
how much.
told you anything.
Shh. When did she tell you about this large settlement?
After she was recovering from her injuries.
When did you get the settlement?
Sometime in 2004.
You still have any of the money left?
Yes, I do. Some in investments.
Good. So you gave her $3,500 in cash.
Yes.
And what was the arrangement about paying you back?
She said, okay, Patty, you know I wouldn't have done this if I really didn't need it. Believe me, I'm going to have this money to you tops the end of the year when I get my bonus from the bank.
That's not true.
So I said, okay, you know what?
What part of keep quiet don't you understand?
I didn't see the money. She said, well, you know, I just need a couple of more months, whatever. And I said, okay, you know, just don't forget about it. You know, I'm being your friend here.
When for the first time, Miss Lugo, did the plaintiff ask for this money back?
Early September.
That's a lie.
So what part don't you understand?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Tell me about the conversation when she asked you for the money back.
She started calling me at work and she started emailing me at work.
What would she say when she called?
She was just calling me, telling me that she needed to meet me somewhere.
When did she, for the first time, ask you for the money back? Answer my question.
I believe her first email was September 7th.
That's not true.
Shh. Next time you're gone. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I assume you want me to consider giving you your money back.
Yes, please.
Then don't do it again. September 6th, and what did she say in the email? Do you have a copy of that email?
No, I don't.
Do you have a copy of the email?
Yes.
I want to see the email from September 6th.
She emailed me a promissory note that she wanted me to sign, that saying that I owed her the money, and because.
Shh. Well, you emailed her and you said to her that you planned on giving her the money.
Yeah, she was calling me at work nonstop, and she was just harassing me.
No, this has nothing to do with a response to harassment.
That's only the email that she gave you, but she didn't tell you about the phone calls that she was making to work.
I just want to see the emails. This is Wednesday, September 6th, and it's a lovely email. Absolutely lovely. You're happy for her. You're happy that she's happy. Hey, I'm not sure what's gone wrong between us again, but I really appreciate everything you have done for me and the times you've been there for me. I guess we are once again going our own separate roads. If it's the money thing, it's stopping you, don't worry, I will give it to you. Do me a favor, please do not email me at the bank. I get in trouble for receiving personal emails.
My manager talked to me and she was telling me that I was receiving too many personal emails. She emailed me.
Listen to me. She wants her money back.
Yeah, after she was trying to get with my boyfriend, she was trying to hook up with my boyfriend, and I confronted her about it. Until then is when she came back and wanted me to sign a promissory note and said that the gift that she gave me for $3,500 was then the loan.
I don't see why somebody who doesn't look like they're rolling in dough would give you $3,500 and not expect to be repaid at some point. Not necessarily in a week, not necessarily in a month or 6 months or even a year. But someday, within a reasonable period of time, when you got your act together, if you ever get your act together, she expected her money back. And to stand there at this point and say, well, she tried to get over on my boyfriend, and that wasn't right, and therefore I'm not paying her a dime, that's the wrong thing to do. It's not the moral thing to do. You want to end a relationship with her? Terrific. Do it. You're not friends anymore? You don't want to be friends anymore? Fine. But she was there for you when you needed her, and you're supposed to do the moral right thing and pay her her money. Just for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all. Friend, according to your complaint, he assaulted you, causing you to have medical bills. He made it so because of the stress that he created by his actions that you couldn't work, thereby causing you to lose your apartment and the lease. He owes you for the assault, for pain and suffering, for your medical bills, etc., etc., etc. Mr. Byman says that you were a nag, you bugged him over his drug use and his lack of employment, that you pushed him and things sort of got out of control.
Correct.
How long were you, Mr. Byman, together?
We started dating on February 17th of '05 and soon got engaged after that.
Are you engaged now?
No.
To anyone?
No.
So this baby is his?
Yes.
When did you move in together?
We moved to San Diego in April, and we were in a hotel room trying to find an apartment for 3 months, and then finally got an apartment on June 6th of '05, and we were there up until end of October when we both were evicted.
But he wasn't living there when you were actually evicted from the apartment?
He was in jail.
And when was he incarcerated?
He was incarcerated 3 different times for
the last time?
The last time was October 12th.
The arrest was for an assault on you. Those charges were somehow disposed of, but he had prior arrest warrants, so he was held.
Technically, it was October 8th, and I had a court case in Sacramento on October 10th. After I couldn't make my court appearance because I was in custody in San Diego, Sacramento put a hold on me. I spent 10 days down in San Diego, and then finally they transported me up to Sacramento to take care of my case up there.
What kind of case did you have there?
I think it was 475 of the Penal Code.
Don't play with me.
It was intent to defraud, ma'am.
Intent to defraud who?
A bank.
Were you sentenced yet?
Yes.
To what?
90 days of work project and 4 years of probation.
Is that the only outstanding case you had?
When I was arrested one of the 3 times, they tested me for drugs and I came up positive.
How long have you had a drug problem, Mr. Byman?
Off and on for years.
How many years? 10?
Started smoking weed at 13 years old, so probably since then.
How old are you now?
26.
13. But you graduated from marijuana to?
Methamphetamine.
Did Miss Garcia, was she aware that you had a drug problem?
Yes.
Did she have a drug problem?
No.
That was poor judgment on your part.
Thought I could help him and save him. Move him to San Diego and get him away from the drugs and the crime.
Well, that's fine. You can try to save him. You don't have to have a baby in the bargain.
Yeah.
Now, according to what I read, Mr. Byman, in the complaint and in your answer, a lot of the fighting that occurred while you were together was because of your drug use and lack of employment. Is that right?
That was part of it, but just money was also a big issue.
Lack of employment.
Yeah.
And then you said something interesting in here. You said, well, at some point you went into a drug rehabilitation program.
Yes.
But you and I both know, Mr. Byman, that when you have a 13-year drug habit, a 10-day rehab program doesn't cut it. Like putting a Band-Aid on an open heart surgery. It doesn't work. Have you since gone into a long-term residential program?
Actually, I'm looking right now.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
So you want to tell me what happened in October?
In October, we had many nights where I stayed up trying to help him through his problems. And that night, I had come down on him saying that what is something bad gotta have to happen to you to get you to do the things that you need to do. And I can't marry you until you get a job. I'm on disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
I have lupus, and I've had 2 major back surgeries. I've had actually 7 surgeries in the last 5 years. And so, therefore, my benefits would be taken away if I married him. And that was one of the major fights. That night, he got very forceful with me. And
look at me.
I slipped out of his arms and got out and left. I left a message on the phone. I said, are you going to stay? I need to know. He never called. I decided that I would just come back in the morning. When I got there with my girlfriend, he was still there. He had slipped out the door. We passed each other and didn't say a word to each other. Basically, we were wanting to find out if he was using still at that point, and it was pretty obvious to me. I stayed there for about 4 hours, got some things ready, then took my girlfriend home. I was gone for about 2 hours, came back, and at that time...
What'd you come back for?
I had nowhere else to go. I was pregnant and exhausted. And
why didn't you stay with your girlfriend?
Why didn't I stay with her? Didn't even ask. It was the apartment. I thought he was gone. He left when we were passing.
What makes you think that he was gone? Just because he walked out then? He didn't walk out with
he was leaving. He had his stuff packed and he was leaving.
He had stuff packed with him when he left?
Yes, he said he was leaving.
The only thing I had with me, Your Honor, was a laptop.
He had a backpack, suitcase.
All your clothes there?
Yes, clothes.
Okay.
All my...
So you went back, Miss Garcia?
Yes, I went back. My dog.
You went back?
I went back to my apartment.
You went back. Don't make excuses. Who is this?
This is my mother.
Don't make excuses to your mother. You went back.
Yeah, of course I went back. My girlfriend did not have a place to stay for me to stay
Go to your
either.
mother's house.
My mother lives 600 miles away.
I don't care. Get on a plane. If you're afraid of somebody, that's what you do. You don't go back to the apartment, knowing that all of his clothes and stuff is still there.
I wasn't that afraid of him at the time.
Okay, so you went back.
So I went back.
Okay.
And he showed up. He was actually in the apartment, hiding behind the bedroom wall, and jumped out at me. And that's when he held me down, saying something to me, just listen, and was holding me down. He would pick me up and throw me on the couch, and then I would slip out of his hold, and then he would catch me and do it again, and then catch me and do it again. And that went on for about 45 minutes. I remember screaming through the window, help, help, at the top of my lungs, that I didn't have a voice afterwards. I finally, don't know how, but after he hit me in the stomach, I don't know if it was with his fist or with something, but I couldn't breathe.
Did you hit her?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I was able to run through the hallway. I had my keys hanging up in the hallway there on this caddy, and grabbed them and ran out the door. He followed me outside down the stairs and proceeded to want to hold me down. And then I think he realized that we were outside, and I was crawling to the car to get into the car to lock myself in the car. And my neighbor saw me, called the police, ambulance came. I was in sinus tac. Went into trauma for about 6 hours. They kept me over the night, watched the baby and make sure the baby was okay. It was about 5 months pregnant. So, which the baby's fine, thank goodness. But we have not been together since.
Go ahead.
I've tried to get him to help pay these bills off. I've been paying them little by little what I can.
Which bills?
The apartment, I haven't started paying the apartment bill yet, which is the eviction and the attorney's fees and what we had owed on the last 2 months, or what he had owed on the last 2 months, actually. He never paid rent, not once. That and the Time Warner Cable, SD Genie, cell phone bills, you name it. I'm paying all of it. We still owe about $11,000 right now, and I'm currently just paying $25, $5 when I can.
Well, show me. Show me that you're paying them.
Let's see. Here's a bill for, there's just 1,000 of them. The bill for the TV, the bill for...
I don't want you to show me the bills. I want you to show me that you paid them.
Yeah, it's got receipts attached to them.
Great. Can I see it, please?
These are the receipts. Let's see here. Then I've got my ambulance bill. I don't have the hospital bill yet.
You have the medical bill there?
I have the ambulance bill. I don't have the hospital bill.
No. What I want you to answer, Ms. Garcia, if you are on disability, which means you also have medical coverage based upon your disability, I want to see what the disability covered. You have Medicaid?
They haven't covered this. I just got this in the mail. And it's Medi-Cal, yes.
Medi-Cal. Well, then that has to be submitted to them.
Yes, it does. I think he should have to pay it, though. Why should the state have to pay something that he caused?
You want a check written to the state, written to the ambulance? Well, that means that he's going to give you less money once this baby is born. Wouldn't that be stupid?
Yeah, like he's going to give me any money.
Wouldn't that be stupid?
Would.
All right. Let's not play around with each other.
The bill that I'm here for, the $5,000 bill, I have not started paying on this because I don't have the money. That's why we're here. I'm suing him for this money.
What bill?
This is our apartment eviction bill. We got evicted. There's attorney's fees. It ends up being $5,493. He assumes that I'm going to pay this. I'm not.
Oh, you're not. You're not. You're just going to pay half.
I've paid half since we moved into that apartment.
No, that's your choice, Ms. Garcia, my dear. That's your choice. If you chose to stay in that apartment and you chose to move in with him, knowing that he had a drug problem, you were trying to save him, your saving him didn't work out, I'm not interested in the fact that you assumed the responsibility of paying the rent, despite the fact that you had an agreement that you were each going to contribute half. Just as if it didn't work out between the two of you and you had to stop working or doing whatever you do because you were pregnant, I wouldn't permit him to come to court and say, well, didn't work out. I paid all the rent. We had an agreement that she would pay half the rent. She stopped working. So I chose to continue to pay the rent. You even went back there in October hoping that it would all work out after you left the apartment and came back with your friend. Now, I'd like you to tell me your version of what happened on the 8th of October.
Actually, it started on the 7th. We got in an argument about the money that we owed when we went to court for the eviction. They gave us 2 weeks when we went to arbitration.
Hold on a second. You mean you were still together at the time then you were being evicted?
Yes.
Is that right?
We had gone to court during the first month that they approached us and put a note on our door.
Miss Garcia, you understand what I'm saying to you. Living in the apartment, the landlord moved to evict you for non-payment of rent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I paid
now
half the rent.
Now it becomes clear. Go ahead.
Well, we got in an argument over what we were going to do. I was trying to come up with the money some way, somehow. Couldn't.
Look at me. Don't look at the desk.
Sorry. Well,
you're still looking at the desk.
Force of habit. I
Don't.
apologize. Anyway, we argued about the money, how we were going to come up with it. Things got loud, and she ended up just taking off for the night, at which this point I stayed the night, and she came back, like she said, with her friend, which then I grabbed just my laptop and like a jacket and stuff and just took off for the day. Came back around 5 in the evening, which point she started screaming and yelling, like, what are you doing here, you sick? I told her I was just trying to get my couple things and go, and that's when everything started escalating, and she slapped me in the face and then scratched the other side of my face, started throwing objects at me, at which point then I did restrain her from hitting me with anything else, and at that point she started screaming, help me, and that went on for a little while longer. Then she ran downstairs like she said, and I got arrested.
You understand that you are responsible for half of what the landlord is owed. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, that's $2,718.
Well, I didn't pay for either the down payment the first month or the second month. My mother actually paid for all that.
And?
I think she's entitled to that, at least, you know, since...
You mean she's entitled to what the landlord owes her?
Altogether, probably, yes, because I didn't pay for anything, like she said. I mean...
I'm not interested in that, sir. Just let's understand that. I couldn't be less interested in what her mother put down, what she put down as a down payment. Those were their choices. Understanding that you had a drug problem, that you lost your job the first week that you moved into the apartment. What you should have done was to move out the first week that you moved into the apartment if you weren't resolving your drug problem. I'm not interested in what her mother did and what she did. I'm interested in what's owed the landlord. So if what's left on the lease is $5,437.17, you're responsible for half of that. But the check will go directly to the landlord. You have to cover the rest. $2,718. Check will be written to the landlord. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. That's all. Thank you. But you were having a romantic relationship with the defendant's husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
I assume this was the husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
This was about a year ago?
A little over a year, yes, ma'am.
Miss Kedward lost it with you one day, came to where you were staying, and assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
She admits that she assaulted you. She also admits that she pled guilty to a simple assault, and she received a fine. Her defense to your action for damages for both your medical bills and your pain and suffering is that you weren't injured. She is counterclaiming for her medical bills, she says, because you've caused her a lot of stress. When did you meet Miss Kedward's husband?
About July 9th of 2005.
Where?
At my mother's house.
What relationship does he have with your mother?
They're the next-door neighbors to my mom.
Were they both living together at the time?
Yes, they were.
Well, when did you start a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
After he told me that he had asked Tammy for a divorce.
But they were still together?
Sort of, kind of.
They were still living under the same roof?
Yes.
Big mistake on your part. Big. When did you start the relationship?
What exact date?
Yeah.
That it turned romantic?
Yes.
Was August 28th of 2005.
So it didn't take long. Now, when did Miss Kedward assault you?
On August 31st.
Tell me about it.
I was over visiting my mother. My car was parked in the back driveway. She came over and spray painted my car with some obscenities and bright orange paint. I saw her do it. We went back inside to call the police. She knocked on the front door, asked me to come outside. My mother came outside with me. She was yelling all kinds of profanities. And
That's not true.
And I was standing between her and my mother tried to explain some stuff to her, and I was looking at my mother. She reached over, grabbed the back of my hair, yanked, jumped on top of me, punched me. Blood went everywhere. Meanwhile,
Punched you where?
In the nose, and then punched me again in the cheek. Meanwhile, my mother managed to pull her off of me, and my 82-year-old grandmother was standing on the porch calling the police.
And you were arrested?
No.
Taken into custody?
No.
Did you press charges?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Miss Kedward, why don't you tell me what happened on the 31st of August?
I drove up from work. I got out of the car, and she came out of her mother's house and said
That is a
something.
lie, Your Honor.
Listen to me. I cut her off when she interrupted you. Don't speak until she's finished. Go ahead.
I got out of the car, and she came out of the front door and said something that I didn't understand what it was that she said. Nevertheless, she said something. And I just went inside, and I called my husband, told my husband that she was saying something to me.
But you didn't know what?
I didn't know what. It was
well,
something.
Why would you, just a second, Ms. Kedward, why would you call your husband if she said something that you didn't understand?
Because I had found out 3 days prior that there was something going on between them.
Okay, did you confront your husband with it?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me the truth. He told me that they were having a relationship, but that it was more as a friend relationship, that he didn't say that it was not intimate. He just told me that basically they had been doing a lot of talking on the phone.
So when you came home on the 31st and you claimed Miss Lampert said something to you, called your husband, and your husband said what?
He said, look, I don't know what's going on. Why don't you just go over there and talk to her about it, and y'all figure it out, and then you call me.
Is that what you said to her? Why don't you just go over there and ask her? Just that's either a yes or no.
Yes.
That was the first time that I ever thought of going over there.
So your cheating husband tells you to go over to the woman's house and to talk it out with her.
Yes.
And you'd listen to him.
Well, it's not that I listened to him. It's more that I thought, go over there. Sounds like a great idea. Why don't I just go over there and find out exactly what she said? And it was probably not the greatest decision in the world, but
well, first thing that you did, you went over and you sprayed her car, because that you paid for, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you painted her car before you went to ask her.
Correct.
What she had said that you didn't hear.
Right.
And then what happened?
I went over and
You sprayed her car.
I sprayed her car, went back inside, and...
Back inside where?
My house.
What happened to speaking to her and about finding out what happened?
That was after.
So then you came out again, worked up a really good mad.
I was infuriated, to say the least.
Fine. So you came out.
I had asked her numerous times, very nicely, please leave my husband alone.
Why didn't you ask him?
I asked him.
So, and what did he say?
She was the instigator.
Stand up. How tall are you?
6'3",
How much do you weigh?
260,
What do you do for a living?
mechanic.
Strong?
I guess so.
Can you walk around?
Yes.
You can walk away from her, can't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. Get what I mean? Shh. Get what I mean?
Yes, ma'am, I do. And
yeah, listen. There's only one person that owes you the responsibility and the respect and has taken a vow.
You're exactly right.
That's him.
You're right.
Not her.
I felt like if she had any compassion or any feeling, that she would have backed off and she would have had respect, at least for my child.
He's supposed to have respect for your child.
I understand that. I truly believe that he did make a bad decision.
Right. But so why did you go over? So you went over there, you assaulted her, and you lost it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, then you have to suffer for that. Okay, Ms. Kedward, what kind of consequence did the criminal justice system impose when you pled guilty to assault?
I had a fine of $341 and a Class C misdemeanor.
Tell me about the surgery that you had 3 months later.
I had actually 2 surgeries to try to correct. I was having trouble breathing through the right side of my nose.
Can I see the medical report?
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
Honor?
Yeah.
She told my husband, he asked her the next day after the assault, "Are you okay?" And she told him, "It's no big deal. The same thing happened to me about a year ago when a girl hit me in a bar."
Okay.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Just a second. Let's say that's true. What difference does it make?
So what's to say if she had any surgeries that it wasn't to correct what had happened then?
It's possible it was. That doesn't leave you. That doesn't. Shh, quiet. That doesn't let you off the hook.
I understand.
She doesn't have to sue for any medical expenses. She can just sue for pain and suffering.
I understand.
Good. Okay, so the first study date in the emergency room was September 1st, and it did say previous surgical changes are noted. Okay, so you had previous surgeries in your nose. Is that right?
From 92.
Okay, good. Now, after this happened on August 31st, did you continue a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
Yes, I did.
For how long?
It actually ended August 1st of 2006.
I don't think that's true, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
that's a bunch of bull.
No, you were at my mother's house.
Shh, listen to me. Whether it lasted 9 months or 10 months or 12 months, it doesn't make any difference. It lasted beyond that. Was Mr. Kedward living with his wife during that time?
He went back to her the end of November of 2005.
Okay, but you continued the relationship with him months after that.
Right.
Not smart. What was he telling you all this time?
Just that he wasn't sure what he wanted and that they had a lot to work out if it was going to work and that he still loved me and he always would.
Well, Miss Lambert, why did you continue the relationship with him?
It's not the first time she's done this. I'm sorry.
Takes 2 to tango.
Yes, ma'am.
His feet work in both directions. If he's back with you and sweet-talking her, that's not a good thing.
Thing about it is, Your Honor, you say I'm strong physically. I'm assuming that's what you're asking. You know, what about mentally when you have a woman like this calling you all the time and not leaving you alone? Yay. Hey.
You don't really want an answer to that question, sir.
Well.
You don't want an answer to that question, Mr. Kedward.
When I asked Miss Lambert to leave my husband alone, my words to her were, "For God's sakes, Marcia, I live next door to your mother. Please just stop."
She used very bad judgment.
She told me that she would be living next door to her mother.
Miss Kedward.
That's a lie.
She used very bad judgment, especially after he came home in November.
He never really left home.
Don't tell me he never really left home. Stop me seasick. Still.
Yes, ma'am.
He exercised very bad judgment. What he's trying to tell me is he may be strong physically, but mentally he's mush. That's just an excuse. What he's trying to say is, how can I withstand the wiles of Jezebel? That's ridiculous. If
That
you
was
bought it,
not what I
quiet.
was saying.
Quiet. There are all kinds of temptations in this world, madam. And you hope that when you marry somebody, that they're going to be able to withstand the temptations. And if they can't, it's their fault. It's not somebody else's fault. In any event, she's suing you for $4,000.
Yes, ma'am.
That, she said, represents her medical bills. You are clearly responsible for that. I want to hear about your counterclaim. You have 1 minute.
I went to the hospital that night and was in the hospital for 2 days following. I was extremely stressed out over the whole situation. I asked her repeatedly to leave my husband alone. She told me she would do what she wanted to do when she wanted to do it. And I lost it. And I have to admit that
I'm talking about your
I went to the
counterclaim.
hospital and I was there for 2 days because of the immense stress that this, I don't even want to call her a woman, has put me through, that she continues to put me through to
What
this
about
day.
him? Why don't you sue him?
I married him for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in front of God, in front of all of our friends. And it's my choice to forgive him, and we have been through counseling.
Perfect. Listen to me. He's the one that owes you the responsibility of
And
doing
he's
the right
paid
thing.
me.
Doesn't she owe us to leave us alone?
I have. Excuse me?
Excuse me? Outside. Put him out.
Come on.
Can I add
I'm
one
gonna-
thing?
Yeah, sure.
I was under so much stress from the immoral actions of this person that I suffered a miscarriage. My child has had to be in counseling. I have had a lot of issues because of her, and to this day.
Because of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Because of them?
She instigated it.
Because, you don't get it. You have to put it in your head. He owes you the responsibility of doing the right thing. She doesn't. He has a contract with you, moral contract and a legal contract. He violated the contract, and I would have very little sense of an obligation to mitigate your damages if Miss Lampert did not continue the relationship after November, when she knew that the two of you were trying to work things out. Miss Lampert fully understood that. From November until, she says, August of 2006, she continued a relationship with him. That's going to hurt you, Miss Lampert, because then you knew that what you were doing was interfering with a relationship, and there is a cause of action. It's a cause of action in common law called alienation of affection. That means you are contributing to alienating the affection of her husband, and you know what that's going to cost you? $4,000. So I rule in your favor on your lawsuit in the amount of $4,000. And I rule in your favor on the counterclaim in the amount of $4,000. Neither one of you are getting anything. That's it. Goodbye. Was in your home with a BB gun.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Robertson, while he acknowledges the fact that he was shooting his BB gun, said that A, it's impossible for the gun to have pierced the windows of your house because it would have to go through a bunch of trees, and B, it would be impossible anyway because he's a very good shot. And he was shooting at squirrels, and he knows that because he's such a good shot, he would not have missed and damaged your property. Those are your two defenses. Is that right, sir?
Pretty much.
Tell me where I'm wrong. I like to know where I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, I might miss on occasion.
Oh.
But, like I said, we're in front of the big tree, so.
Okay. Miss Banks, have you had any trouble with Mr. Robertson before?
Yes, I have.
With what?
About 5 years ago.
Stop playing with that, please. It's distracting me, and at my age, nothing should distract me when I'm trying to work. Yes.
Approximately 5 years ago, Your Honor, he installed a pool improperly in his backyard, and that pool ruptured, and the water came down my backyard because he lives here and I live here, and approximately 19,000 gallons of water came into my basement. And what I did was I asked him to come over to survey the damage. He did, and his comment was that it wasn't that bad. But because we're neighbors and I tried to handle it civilly, I settled with his insurance company for $1,200, and there was a lot more damage than that, let alone the time. And I asked him to just help me clean it up, and he refused to do that. This time, when I discovered the damage, I said I wasn't going to let it go.
Since the incident 5 years ago, I assume that the relationship between the two of you has been strained.
Yes.
What date were you shooting at squirrels, Mr. Robertson, when Miss Banks came over and told you you had damaged her windows?
Oh, she never did.
Who did?
I did. This guy. I mean, I was out in the backyard one day, and he hollers at me and says, you know, you shot my garage window. I said, well, I don't know if I did, but if I did, I'll replace it. He says, don't worry about it. I just wanted you to know about it. And so ever since then, we quit shooting the BB guns.
Well, when was this, sir, that you told him he shot out the window?
It was the third week of July. His son was out shooting and actually shot over top of my head.
How old is your son?
16.
Don't you know that you could hurt somebody with a BB gun?
If you hit somebody, it'd probably sting.
Well, if you hit him in the eye, it could blind him.
Probably could.
If you hit him in the ear, it could make him go deaf.
Probably could.
So why do you do it?
I didn't.
No, why do you let your son play with a BB gun?
Well, you know, I imagine there's probably 40, 50 kids in that neighborhood got BB guns.
I don't give a rat's behind about 40 or 50 kids. I'm asking you, why do you let your son shoot a BB gun?
Because I don't see anything wrong with it. It's my yard. If he wants to shoot a pop can or something in the backyard, you know, that's no problem. You know, this guy's saying he got one shot over his head. I doubt it. How would you know?
Because you can hear it coming through the...
You can't hear a BB.
Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, it's like, may I say something?
Yes.
I mean, it's like we're talking about the swimming pool. You know, 19,000 gallons of water didn't go in her basement. You know, I did go and survey the damage. It didn't look that bad.
Went into her basement?
My insurance company took it.
When I'm speaking, you see, you may be able, is this your wife?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You may be able to interrupt her. Don't interrupt me.
No, I was speaking.
No. But when I start to speak, Mr. Robertson, you have to stop. That's the,
All right.
That's the way we play here in
Okay.
my playpen.
That's fine.
Good. Can I see the damage to your house, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have police reports as well, if you would like to see those.
I would.
And then also I've included estimates.
Good. How many windows?
3 windows, and then the truck windshield.
Well, either you or your son have lousy aim, sir.
Would you mind asking this man if he did agree, you know, that I told him I'd take care of the window, and he said, don't worry about it, I just wanted you to be aware of it? Because after that date, we never shot anymore.
When you first...
Shh, don't answer him.
It's like rock damage to me. No BB did that.
Yes.
Judge Judy, I would like to add, originally, the first incident he did offer to pay. The second incident was August the 11th, the date of the police report.
And on the second incident, how many windows were shot out?
That's when we discovered the damage of the second additional, the bedroom window, and then the truck window.
Got it. Still have the BB gun, Mr. Robertson?
Yeah.
Still let your son use it?
Like I said, nobody shot it since he said I shot his garage window out.
Well, you don't know that, sir. You do work, don't you? You do
No,
work.
I don't.
You don't work?
No.
Why not?
I'm disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
Back.
You
I've
have a
had
bad
5 back
back.
surgeries.
Really? How can you shoot a BB gun with a bad back?
A BB gun?
Yeah, how can you pick up a BB gun?
Well, how much do you think it weighs?
Kind of hard to shoot. Well, incapacitating. Seems to be if you could do this, you could sit at a desk and answer a phone.
Well, I'm just saying, I offered to pay for it. He said, don't worry about it. And that was the end of the shooting.
He doesn't
after
want
that.
you to know. Listen to me. He doesn't want you to worry about it. He wants you to pay for it. There's a difference.
I offered to pay for it.
Good.
Ask my wife.
Oh, I won't. She has to go home with you.
For
that she has
you
my
done made your
sincere
mind up.
condolences.
And like I said, you know, I thought you were innocent until you're proven guilty.
That's what we just did.
No, you didn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's all.
It don't matter.
Gilmore was a friend of yours. You had been friends for a long time, according to what I read in your complaint. A group of girls decided to go on a trip. Where were you going?
We were going on a Mexican cruise.
For how many days?
A week.
And what was the cost to each girl?
It was $325 each.
Very reasonable for a whole week.
Yes.
Did they feed you on this trip for $325 for a week?
I actually don't know. I didn't go.
Do they feed you?
Yes, they do.
In any event, you paid Miss Gilmore your $325.
Yes.
She was making the arrangements. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
19.
Am I correct that someone in the party had to be 21 in order for the girls to go?
Yes.
What you tell me in your complaint is that one of the girls, I believe her name was Ashley, was the 21-year-old, she backed out.
Yes.
So now you have a predicament. You've paid your $325, as have other girls, and unless you found someone else who was 21 years old, you couldn't go.
Yes.
So according to you, you waited for a while to see if somebody else was going to go and somebody else was going to go. So you made other plans for that period of time. That's what you say. And according to you, Miss Gilmore decided to take her brother.
Yes, well, actually...
Decided to take her brother. He was going to pay for himself. And his brother had a friend whose name was?
Gaius.
Gaius?
Gaius Mike. He goes by Mike.
Good. His name was Mike. Mike went on your ticket.
Yes.
And you want the money.
Yes.
Didn't Mike pay?
No.
Why not?
Because we had made oral agreement that Mike was going to pay after the cruise, but Brittany showed up at my house the day before. We left saying that she wanted it then.
Just a minute. Who did Mike make the arrangement with? With you?
With me. He made with me and she made with me.
Just a second. So Mike made the arrangement with you that he was going to pay for the trip.
Yes.
And you told her that Mike was paying for the trip. That was your agreement with him.
Yes.
Now she's suing you because you told her you're going to get your money for this ticket. That's what you told her.
Yes.
Go get the money from Mike. She has no way of suing him because they did not have an agreement. The agreement was between the two of you. You have a cause of action against him if he breached that agreement and didn't give you the money.
Yes, but since she had come to my house saying that she wanted the money earlier than she had expected, I figured if she felt that she needed the money before, even though he wasn't able to provide it for her, she should have called the travel agent herself and said that, because what she said was she wanted her ticket or the money.
Madam. She could have done this and she would have done that, and if she did this, she wouldn't have been in that. She had an agreement with you, and the agreement was you were going to give her back her money because your brother and his friend were going on this trip with you. And if the friend stiffed you, sue him. He went, he had a good time. I assume he ate, right? Well, I'm sure his company wasn't that terrific that entitled him to a free ride, right? Right, Mr. Gilmore? You wouldn't give him a free ride.
Ma'am, she canceled out at the very last minute.
Are you following me? Your daughter made an agreement with her that she would get her money back. She has to do that. Now, since she did not gain anything herself, perhaps, unless she likes Mike, she has an absolute right to turn around and sue Mike for the cost of the ticket because he promised to pay her, and he didn't. She may have had a lot of other options. She doesn't have to exercise all those other options. She had an agreement with your daughter. Do you get it?
Yes.
Good. Now, you have a counterclaim for harassment and the expenses surrounding harassment. Ms. Gilmore, you want to tell me about that?
Yes, when she had decided 4 days we had agreed that Mike was going to take her place. We had made the agreement that he was going to pay after, and she kept constantly calling saying that she wanted the money earlier, and I told her that I didn't have it and that Mike hadn't given it to me, and she kept calling me, harassing me, and showing up. She showed up at my house the day before saying she wanted the money or the ticket, and the option was that she could call the travel agent and say that she wanted her place back because I didn't have the money. So she was constantly calling me, and then after she had left our house, she had called our mutual friend who also went inquiring about my car, wondering where my car was going to be where we went on the cruise, and I just bought a brand new car, so I was wondering why she wanted to know where my car was.
Just a second, how do you know Brittany called your friend?
My friend, the one who went on the cruise, told me.
Well, you can't tell me that, madam, that's hearsay.
Okay.
What else?
So, but basically she had called me constantly, leaving me messages, called me when I was
that's
at
what
work.
happens when she feels as if you were stiffing her money. That's not a cause of action for harassment. You have to give her the $325, and I suggest that you and your father, when you leave here, you go to small claims court and you sue Mike for the trip that he took, that he enjoyed, that so far he didn't pay for. Right?
Right.
As between the two of you, you owe her $325. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Goodbye. Claim that the defendant, who was an old boyfriend of yours, owes you some money.
Correct.
For a loan that you made to him. And the purpose of the loan was to have an old car fixed.
Yes.
This was a specialty car?
It's just, it's going to be a classic soon. It's just a car I always wanted
Me
to fix
too.
up.
What kind?
I clean windows on high rises.
That's a pretty dangerous job.
Yeah,
How long have you been doing that?
like 7, 8 years now.
Make a good living?
Yeah, except when they lay you off.
Well, you don't do it when it's windy or snowing or raining.
Right.
How much do you make a year?
Anywhere from 48 to 68,000 a year.
And how many people do you support?
Just myself.
What kind of car is this that you have?
It's a 1986 Ford Mustang GT.
And your age, sir?
I'm 24 now.
Got a lot of money in the bank?
No, unfortunately.
Do you own a home?
No, I'm working on it. I'm renting an apartment for now.
Well, you make a lot of money. What do you do with all your money?
It's expensive to live in New York.
You don't put any money away?
No, I try. Not really.
You need a good woman, sir, to help you out. You also have a claim for harassment. It is your claim that he's been making harassing phone calls to you, and it's because you believe it's because you confronted his now girlfriend and told her that he was still involved with you.
She did not know about the payments. She never knew. He began dating her a week after we broke up, and she just found out about our involvement beginning of January
How
of
did
this
she
year.
find out?
She found a text message in his phone.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir, because she was harassing.
She was harassing for what?
Yeah, she was mad about the breakup, so she
She
couldn't
mad
leave
about
me
the
alone.
breakup, or did she ask you for money?
She was harassing me about everything.
Was money involved?
Yes.
These are not hard questions, sir. Now, tell me about this loan.
We were dating for about a year, and within that time, he needed some major repair work done on the car. It was a car that both of us were using for transportation, or rather him. I don't drive. I don't have a license.
So he was driving you around?
Yes. I used to live with him, and where we live, you cannot get around unless you have a car.
How long did you live together?
About 9 months.
Where were you living at the time? In your apartment?
Staying with my mom at the time.
So how were you living together?
She
Where did
allowed-
you live together?
In his bedroom.
At his mother's house?
In his mother's house.
Just a second. In his mother's house. So neither one of you were paying any rent?
I did I tried to give them money as much as I could.
Don't tell me tried. I'm not interested in your trying. So you weren't paying any rent? And you weren't paying any rent?
We were, when we could.
Well, sir, if you make $50,000 a year, it seems to me you could help out with your own rent. What does your mother do for a living?
She's a stay-at-home mom.
Well, how does she support herself?
Her boyfriend.
And she had the two of you living there.
Yes, correct.
Tell me about the loan.
He needed some major repair work done on the car. The car was not running, and he asked if he could use my credit card because I don't have any money except for my credit card, and he told me he would pay me back. So I lent him the credit card, and within that time, he was making payments to me weekly.
To you or to the credit card?
He was giving them to me, and I was paying the credit card because the credit card was in my name.
How much was he giving you?
Anywhere from $100 to $200 a week.
Tell me when you actually put the bill on your credit card. What was the date?
Between June and July, 7 transactions were put on the credit card in the amount of about $5,000.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Who had physical possession of the credit card?
I did.
So how would this money be placed on the credit card?
A few times I went with him to use the credit card, and there were a few times where I just gave him the card. And I never used the credit card, Your Honor, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 times. It was all of the car repairs.
Who has the car now?
It's his car. He has it.
When did you break up?
August 26th of 2006.
So shortly after the car was taken
Yes.
care of. Now, Mr. Lara, I read your answer. Your answer says that you had made an arrangement with the place that was fixing your car, that you were going to pay them out.
Yes.
And she took it upon herself to go in with a credit card and pay the bill. But that's not true, because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different times that the credit card was used. So you must have known about it.
Yes, I did.
And did you say, don't do it because I'm going to pay them
Absolutely.
out?
I insisted that she didn't do it.
Each time you said, don't do it because I'm going to pay them out.
She said it's something we both need, so.
I believe that. No, I believe that. Listen to me, Mr. Lara. I believe that she said to you, listen, I use the car, because she did use the car. So she said, we're both using the car, so I'm going to pay for it. Instead of paying them, pay me. And she says that you were giving her money, Mr. Lara.
Yeah, I felt bad. I didn't want her to spend so much for
Now,
a gift.
you felt bad when you were living together?
Yes.
Speak up!
Yes.
Scared to death of me or what? Are you always this low energy, sir?
Yes.
It's very hard to get excited with you, Mr. Lara. Mr. Lara, I want you to pay careful attention to all my words, sir. While you were living together, you felt badly about what she spent on the car, on your car, so you were giving her money.
Yes.
After you broke up, you stopped feeling badly, so you stopped giving her money. Is that what you're telling me?
She kept on harassing.
No, no, no. Don't tell me her. I don't want to hear harassing. I want to hear while you were living together and using the car together. Listen, I want you to follow the logic of this. You were paying her while you were together and using the car together, right?
Yes.
After you broke up with her and started to see your new girlfriend and she wasn't using the car anymore with you, you didn't feel badly anymore, so you stopped giving her money.
Well, I didn't want it to interfere with my relationship. She kept harassing me because things with her, who she was trying to get with, wasn't going well, so I think she's suing me because of the
I don't
breakup.
give a rat's behind what you think. I asked you a very simple question, and you understand my question, because I don't think there's total vacancy between your ears, sir. While you were together and both using it, you paid her for laying out the money. When you were no longer together and she wasn't using the car, you stopped paying her. That's what you're telling me. That's objective, not what you thought, what you felt. That's what happened. Doesn't that sound stupid to you?
No, because it was a gift.
Mr. Lara, I know that you have this word gift in your mind, but what you did in paying her belies the fact that it was a gift, sir. You paid her for the credit card. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars, according to her, because she's only suing you for what she claims is the balance, which is $3,400. And the total was close to $5,000 to fix the car. So you paid her a lot of money to pay down the credit card. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Was he more exciting when you were together?
He had his moments.
Few and far between.
He has a problem with confrontation, Your Honor.
He has a problem with confrontation?
Yes.
Oh, and I love confrontation. That's why we don't get along. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,400. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Listen, your complaint is that Miss Jones's son, that would be this little tyke over here, vandalized your car with some sort of an implement. You want her to pay for the damage. Miss Jones says, well, she's not sure if her son did it, and if he did it, he had an accomplice of similar age, and why aren't you suing the accomplice too? That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Jones, let me ask you this question. If you believe that your son was responsible for part of the damage, you would acknowledge that and would be prepared to pay for part of the damage. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
What proof do you have that Miss Jones's son, because you didn't see it, vandalized your car?
I have a witness who says she saw him do it.
Okay. When did this happen?
July 11th at approximately 7:30, 8 a.m.
And the witness that you had would be this little girl?
Mm-hmm.
And she's 5?
Yes.
Whose child is she?
One of our other neighbors. Her name's Angela Twyman.
And what's her name?
Michaela.
Michaela, would you like to come up and talk to me?
Hey. Okay. You all right? Okay.
Hi, Michaela. You know who I am? You don't know? Do you know why you're here? And you don't know why you're here. Who did you come with today? Oh, I see this is going to be interesting. Do you know this little boy? Is he a friend of yours? Do you know Miss Jones? Is she a neighbor of yours? Can you talk? Can you tell me your full name? Let me hear.
Michaela.
And what's your last name, Michaela?
Michaela and Timon.
Do you want to talk to me about what happened with Miss Johnson's car? You want to tell me what happened? Okay, tell me what happened.
He spit on the car.
He spit on the car? Did you see him do that? Did you see him do anything else to the car, Michaela? What else did you see him do?
He scratched it.
What did he scratch it with?
A rock.
Did you see him with the rock in his hand? Did you have a rock in your hand? Was anybody else with him when he had the rock in his hand?
No.
But you're sure you saw him scratch the car with a rock? After you saw him scratch the car, Michaela, did you go and tell anybody? Who did you tell?
His parents.
His parents? Oh, did you tell them right away? Okay. You can go and sit down now. Thank you. Michaela came and told you that about that?
No, ma'am.
She never came and told you that?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you?
I called. I assume that from the way the marks are, they're huge, just circles, scribbles, they're all at very low positions. I assumed it was a child, and I assumed that if I asked enough children, one of them would tell on the other. So I called her parents and I said, you know, later on today when the kids are home, please ask them if they saw anyone playing around Miss Nikki's car. And in the background, I could hear her say, I did, I saw Darian. And her mom said, well, will you do me a favor? Will you go outside and on Mommy's car, will you touch the spots that you saw him touching on Miss Nikki's car? And she said, okay, she's touching the hood, the driver's side door, and the passenger door on the same side as the driver's side. And she said, is that right? And I said, yeah, that's exactly where the damage is.
Tell me your name.
Darian.
Darian, I want you to come up here and sit up here and talk to me. Trouble, a handful.
Yes, thank you. I do know that.
A handful.
Okay. Tell the judge, okay?
Me and Michaela did it.
You and Michaela both did it? Well, tell me how that happened, Darian.
Me and Michaela had rocks.
Well, how many rocks did you have in your hand?
One.
And where did you get the rock from?
Off the ground.
And what about Michaela? Did she have a rock too?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to scratch Miss Johnson's car?
I don't know.
Well, does your mom have a car?
Yeah, gray.
Hmm?
Gray.
She has a gray car. Darian, if you saw children scratching your mother's car, would you be angry with them? Because that's not the right thing to do, right? And your mommy would be very upset that somebody scratched her car, wouldn't she? She would be sad. Are you ever going to do that again? Because you know you can get into trouble for doing that to other people's property, right? How many marks did you make on the car? And how many marks did Michaela make on the car? So you made more marks than Michaela. Did Michaela make bigger marks than you or littler marks than you? She made smaller marks than you. Show me with your hands how big were the marks that you made on the car. Big ones. And she made little ones. Is that right? She made little ones. And show me your size. The ones you made were bigger ones. Now, when your mom asked you about Miss Johnson's car, did you tell her the truth right away?
My dad.
You told your dad the truth right away? And what did you tell him?
I scratched it.
And when did you tell your mom and your dad that Michaela was there too?
I didn't tell him. I only told my dad.
When did you tell your dad that Michaela was there too? Did you tell him right away, or did you tell him later?
Right away.
Go and step down. I have a feeling he did a little more damage than Michaela did, but my sense is that Michaela was there. Made a few little marks. Miss Johnson, I know that you don't like to believe it, but cute little Michaela scratched your car. She didn't do as much damage as this little guy did. And in his own 5-year-old way, he really told me the truth about that, because I don't know how many scratches were on the car, but clearly he said he did more than she did. And when I asked him, you saw, how big were her scratches? He said, well, they were really teeny. Mine were bigger. Well, one gets the sense that at least he's telling the truth, that there was some co-participation.
And she said that she helped him wipe them off with the spit so that he wouldn't get into trouble. That's what she told her mom.
Oh, okay.
She said, I helped, he spit all over the car and I helped him rub them off, but they weren't coming off.
Okay. So you get it, that Michaela's folks have to be responsible for some of the damage to the car.
I also have rental car receipts because they said it's going to take 4 to 5 days. So I have $182.04 because they won't do it on the weekend, not all of it, and I work about 45 minutes from home.
Okay.
So I have a rental car receipt for $182.04.
$422, that's half. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $422. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Smart but a handful, Miss Jones.
Thank you.
Your roommate for a short period of time, and it is your claim that she moved out after an argument that you had, and she put a stop payment on her rent check.
Yes.
You want your rent.
Right.
And the defendant says that you kicked her out of the apartment, and therefore she doesn't have to pay you any rent. Miss Moses, you moved into Miss King's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I moved in approximately August the 4th, I believe, around the beginning of August.
Was it August 4th?
August 5th.
And you knew each other before?
Yes, we did.
Through college.
What was the rental arrangement?
The rental arrangement was that we would both split the rent equally, $305 including utilities. She was supposed to pay me on the 3rd of each month.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she move out?
She moved out November the 14th.
Had she paid you November's rent?
Well, she wrote me a check when I went to the bank to cash it.
That's the rent check that she stopped paying.
Right, and I have that as well.
Okay, so that was November 14th. So far, you were in the apartment from November the 3rd to November the 14th.
Yes.
So you should have paid rent.
Yes.
On what date did you give her the rent?
Probably the 7th. It was after the time that I was supposed to give it to her. Oh, yes, ma'am, the 7th.
Why were you late with your rent?
Well, a week before that, my purse had gotten stolen, and I didn't have a bank card. I had to change all my accounts, and during this time when I was changing the numbers and all, getting everything straight, I informed Aaron of this. I said, I don't have a checkbook, I don't have a bank card. I said, can I just pay you next week once my accounts are in order? She said, yes, no problem. I said, I'll pay you a late fee. She said, okay, no problem, and I did so.
You paid her the rent?
Yes, and a late fee.
Which you owed her?
Yes.
And the late fee?
Yes.
Now, why did you stop payment on the check?
Me and Aaron had been having problems living together for about a month. She was in an abusive relationship. It was constant fighting in the apartment. Her boyfriend would come over, get high, smoke weed, hit on me. She'd leave him in there. She gave him a key to the apartment. She would constantly fight with me over food, saying I was stealing from her. We got into a physical altercation, and I decided this was the last straw. She was not on the lease and to get out of her house. So I said, gladly, I'll stop payment on my rent check, and I'll leave your house immediately.
Well, you can't do that. A, you didn't tell her you were stopping payment on the rent check.
I did tell her I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Really? No.
She
You didn't
called
even
me.
say that in your answer, that you told her you would leave
She called
immediately.
me that same day, and I told her I was stopping payment on my rent check, and I was moving out.
You may have told her that after she called you on the phone, but when you had the argument with her in the house...
No, she told me to leave. She told me this was her apartment and to leave.
On the phone or in person?
No, when we had our physical altercation.
I understand that. You're not putting on your listening ears.
I'm sorry.
At the time you had this altercation and this argument, you did not say to her, I'm putting a stop payment on the rent check. According to you, you told her over the phone that you were putting a stop payment on the rent.
I apologize for not mentioning that, but I did tell her at the point when we were after the physical altercation, the police that came, I told her that I was leaving and I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Well, you can't.
Okay.
You can't. Unless, of course, she changed the locks.
Yes, that's exactly what she did.
When did you change the locks?
I changed the locks on the 14th. That was because she had been going through my belongings. She had actually stole from...
Just a second. You can't change the locks and ask for rent at the same time.
Well, I actually changed the locks after she did the stop payment on the check. After they gave me the check back from the bank, I went to the bank on the 11th. They told me at the bank I need to take this check back to Ms. Moses. They couldn't tell me why because it was concerning her account. After I left the bank, I said, Avian, I just left the bank. They gave me the check. She said, I'm not paying you anything. I'm moving out.
That's not correct.
And so after that, I later discovered that she had been in my room while I was out of the apartment.
Ms. King, can't have it both ways. If you change the locks on the apartment, making it impossible for her to come back to the apartment, you can't charge her for rent for the entire month.
She did come back to the apartment. After we got into the argument on that Sunday, the police came.
Who called the police?
She did. Even though she started the altercation, she was threatening me with an alcohol bottle, saying that she was going to hit me upside my head with it. While the police was there, I said, it's fine. She can stay, you know, for the next 3 weeks. It won't be any problems. She left that Sunday. She actually came back that Monday and spent the night, even after she told me that she was moving out, and she had started to move her stuff out.
When did she finally move the last bit of property out of the house?
She didn't finish moving out because after I had the locks changed, I called her and I let her know that I had the locks changed and to call me and make arrangements to get the rest of her belongings. I guess she was angry because I had the locks changed, and she said, well, you're stealing my property. She was with her mother. I said, no, you can come in and get your stuff. I even gave her mother a futon cover that was in the living room and a financial aid paper. I guess, you know, it has her financial information. I kept telling them, please come in and get the rest of your stuff. I even, you know, gave them that. I wasn't...
When did she take it out, or did she still not
She left after I gave her mother the futon cover and the Norfolk State financial aid booklet. They said, we don't want the rest of the stuff. We're leaving, and they left it. And so she left a bed, a dresser,
Did you leave
clothing.
a bed and a dresser there?
Yes.
Ma'am, because yes, I did, because she wouldn't allow me to get it.
Oh,
She
well,
changed
you
the
didn't
locks.
listen to me. You didn't sue her, did you, for your stuff?
Yes, I did. And the court ordered her to give it back to me, and I didn't get it back until January the 1st of 2007.
Oh, so you did sue her. This is
Yes,
not
I
the
did.
first time you've been in small claims court.
No, ma'am.
Really? I got it. Miss King, you're only entitled to half a month's rent. Change the locks, but you're entitled to half a month's rent. $152.50.
Okay.
Right? That's what your half a month's rent is.
Yes.
And that's what you offered to pay her.
Yes, I did. She said she didn't want it.
$152.50. Absolutely right. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff. Responsible for you being severely burned. You want him to pay your medical bills that weren't covered by insurance, and in addition, a sum for the pain and suffering that you endured as a result of these burns. Mr. Endicott says that you were burned as a result of your own drunkenness. So tell me when this happened.
August 17th, night of August 17th, was laying next to, we were camping.
Who was camping?
Me, Mr. Endicott, my boyfriend Jeff, his 13-year-old daughter. I mean, there was a group of us and other children.
When had you gone camping?
I had gone August 17th, Friday.
When had you gone camping, Mr. Endicott?
I got there the same day.
And this was a pre-planned weekend, overnight, is that right?
Yeah.
Did you know each other before?
I had been introduced to him for my boyfriend one other time.
You two were friends?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me what happened.
The day was great. We were four-wheeling in the sand. The night started rolling on. Everybody was settling down by the campfire. There was some drinking, and I was only there for the night, so I didn't have a camping chair, so I laid down near the fire to feel the warmth and everything, and then all of a sudden, I went up in flames.
Did you witness what happened?
Yes.
Stand up, sir. Tell me your name.
Jeffrey Ablin?
Tell me what you observed on the 17th. Miss Crawford had fallen asleep around the fire.
Yes, we were.
Were you on a blanket?
No, I wasn't sleeping. I was just laying there.
We were just, everybody was around the fire.
How many people were around the fire?
I would say approximately there had to have been a good 10 people.
Did you know most of them?
Yes, I knew all of them.
Who had made the fire?
All of us together, all the guys went out to out onto the beach, and we towed back driftwood.
When you say all the guys, how many guys were there?
I would say there's probably a good 5 or 6 of us that went out there and gathered wood.
Including Mr. Endicott?
Yes.
Yeah. And how long had the fire been burning?
I would say it'd probably been going about 6 hours at least.
So it was late at night?
Yes, it was approximately about midnight, I would say, roughly.
Yeah, but the driftwood that we put on there that's in neglected to tell you is that it was
You're
wet.
going to have your turn. Go ahead, sir.
So we were all just hanging out by the fire talking, and I didn't actually see Scott throw the gas on the fire, but what I seen was a huge flame and her burst into flames.
After you burst into flames, what happened?
I started rolling. Jeff and a couple of the other guys all kind of jumped on me, pounced out the fire, threw sand on me. They all picked me up at that point, took me to the hospital there in town, the ER. At that point, I was in shock. My skin was sloughing off my legs. I have pictures of that. I don't recall a whole lot after the next 24 hours.
When did you speak to Mr. Endicott?
I actually didn't speak to Mr. Endicott until Wednesday. He came over to my parents' house.
And what day of the week was this?
That's Friday night.
So Wednesday you spoke to Mr. Endicott, and did he call you?
No.
You called him?
No. We were going through Jeff at that point.
You spoke to him?
Yes.
So tell me about the conversation. Did you call him or did he call you?
I seen him face to face.
And tell me about the conversation.
I had asked him if he was going to go to the hospital and see her because she was burned.
And
he told me he didn't think it was his fault, so that he wasn't going to go there. He was going home.
Did he offer an explanation to you?
Yes, he was throwing fire. He was throwing fuel on the fire to get it going better. And
Is that what
did
he
not
said to you?
see her. Yes.
Is that what you said to him?
Yes.
Now you can sit down. Now I'll see the pictures. You're a nurse?
CNA, going to school to be a nurse.
So you were not able to work because of the open wounds?
Correct.
Is that right?
I work in a hospital.
Okay. All right, Mr. Endicott, you certainly have seen these photographs?
Nope.
Okay, sir. Let's start on the 17th.
When I got there, there's a small campfire, and everybody was doing their drinking and stuff. And I was going back and forth from that campground to another campground.
When were you going back and forth between the two campgrounds?
Just through the course of the night. Because I got there around 7 o'clock, and from 7 to about 10, I was going back and forth. Because I had family in another campground. And around 10 o'clock, I came back out there, and that's when everybody decided I decided to stay out there.
At 10 o'clock?
Yeah, around 10 o'clock, I believe. And me and Jeff and some other people went out and got some more firewood, and we brought it back, and the firewood was damp, and so we had it all stacked up on there. And through the course of the evening, the fire hadn't really started on the wood, and another friend asked if we could pour some gas on the fire. And when I went and got the can, another friend was going to pour it out of a cup, and I just told him I'd pour it out of a can. And
So
by the
somebody
time,
was going to pour it out of a cup.
yeah,
What would be the reason for pouring it out of a cup instead of using a can?
I don't know. It just,
Well, try to think.
that's just the way he wanted to do it.
Would it...
No difference.
Don't pick your hand up. I don't need anything from you yet.
I mean, there wouldn't be any difference from pouring it out of a cup out of a can. I mean, the results probably would have been the same.
No, what I'm saying to you is if you're using a cup, it would just... I'm not a campfire girl myself. You may not have known that. But those people who know me know I believe in sleeping in a bed with running plumbing. So, but it would just seem to me that if you used a cup to pour liquid as, you could sort of gauge how much you were actually using as opposed to using a can where you just go...
Out of the can, it came out of a can out of a hole that big.
I understand that, sir.
So,
So you decided to use the can.
yeah.
Okay, and then what did you do?
When I was walking over to pour the gas on the fire, everybody that was awakened by the fire all moved away from the fire. So I thought it was safe to pour gas on the fire. She was on the other side of the fire, and the wood was stacked up pretty high, wearing dark clothes, and nobody could see her.
No, not nobody.
I couldn't see her.
So whose fault is that?
I think it's both of our fault because...
Don't tell me why you think it's both of your faults. Let us say that I believe you when you say she was, because I read your answer, that she was probably sleeping because she had had too much to drink. Let's say I buy that 100%. Explain to me why that's not your fault.
It is my fault for her getting burnt, but I don't feel financially responsible for it.
Well, why, if it's your fault for her getting burned, why aren't you financially responsible, Mr. Endicott?
Why isn't she responsible for her own actions?
What are her actions that caused her to get burnt?
Being inebriated.
Yeah. So were you. So was everybody else that was there. They had been drinking all night. You had been drinking in between 2 campgrounds. You were all drinking. How does the fact that she was drinking, sleeping, make it her fault? Don't you get that? It's your fault. Let me give you an example, Mr. Endicott, of the lunacy of your position. Okay, sir? Pay careful attention to me. Let's say you're drunk and you get behind the wheel of a car, just like you pick up a can of gas while you're drunk. And you're driving along and you hit somebody who is sitting in their car in a no parking zone. They're sitting in their car, not moving. You're drunk in your car. You plow right into them. You think it's an argument in your defense that they're sitting in a no parking zone?
Not in that situation, but what if she...
Of course not.
What if she...
Of course not, because the fact, sir, that they are sitting in a no parking zone has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you recklessly got behind the wheel of a car while drunk and drove that car into the parked car. Similarly, Mr. Endicott, the fact that you did not secure the area by walking around the perimeter of the fire to make sure nobody was there before you poured gasoline on it is your fault. Not her fault that the wood was piled too high so that you couldn't see over it, or it was dark, or that she chose to wear dark clothing when she was sleeping at the fire so you couldn't see her. If you had walked around the fire, you would have seen her, right?
Yeah.
You didn't. Whose fault is that?
I guess it's mine.
Now we're getting closer to it. If it's your fault that she got burned because you were negligent and careless, you're responsible. Do you understand that? Just say yes, ma'am. Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step out. According to the complaints that I read, each of you, through your parents or guardian, suggests that the other assaulted him at a sleepover party you were having at somebody's house. Both of you claimed that you were injured?
Yes, ma'am.
And since the parents weren't there and the sister wasn't there, you're going to stand up on your own and tell me when this was and what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
I would suggest to you, if you think about lying, turn around and leave. If you think about stretching the truth, it will be a very unfortunate day for you. So I expect to hear from you nothing but the
truth.
Correct. What's your first name?
Trevor.
And yours?
Justin.
How long had you been friends?
A few years.
And tell me when this incident happened. Where were you, Trevor?
I was at my friend Austin's house.
How many people were there?
About 6.
Remember the date?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember the date?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember the month?
No. I'm honestly not sure.
Did you have medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you had bills, then I bet you your mother remembers what date this happened. What date?
September 5th, 2007.
Where were Mr. Austin's parents?
They were back in their room.
And there was 6 people sleeping over?
Yes, ma'am. We were in the living room. We were all playing around. We were having a pillow fight, just playing around. And I decided I wanted to stop, so I sat down and was watching TV, and I was hitting the back of the head with the pillow, like, really hard. And I turned around and asked my friend who did it, and he said Justin. I assumed Justin Townsend.
You assumed it was him?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
didn't see him, did you? But somebody else said Justin. How many Justins were there?
2.
So you went over to this Justin, and what did you do?
I hit him with the pillow.
You hit him. What was he doing when you hit him?
He was sitting down.
So he wasn't doing anything?
No, ma'am.
Did you hit him in the face or in the back?
I wasn't paying attention where I hit him. I just hit him with the pillow.
Did you hit him because you were angry?
Yes, ma'am.
So I assume you hit him as hard as you could.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what happened?
I turned around to walk off. I heard him say something, so I turned back around and I was hit in the face.
By whom?
By him.
And?
I was hit in the face and knocked back on my back. I got back up and went into the kitchen, and I saw blood, so I went back in there and grabbed a lamp and hit him with the lamp.
And?
After I hit him with the lamp, I walked back into the kitchen. He walked after me and asked me if I wanted to even out the other eye, and I grabbed a knife and told him if he came any closer, I would cut him, which
Yeah?
I understand was the wrong thing to do. And
The whole thing was the wrong thing for you to do.
yes,
You hit him first.
yes, ma'am.
Don't you get that?
Well,
What do you mean, well?
He was under the impression that it was Justin
I
Townsend.
don't
who
care
hit
what he
her.
was under the impression that it was Justin who hit him. It wasn't. Right?
No, ma'am.
So you made a mistake. You picked the wrong Justin.
Yes, ma'am.
And you hit him as hard as you could.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were angry. And he got up and he hit you back.
Yes, ma'am.
And he gave you a black eye.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went into the kitchen, saw you were bleeding, came out, picked up a lamp, an object. So far you've been playing with feathers and fists. So you pick up a lamp and you hit him in the head. And then you went and got a knife. What is wrong with you?
Nothing's wrong with me.
I mean, why would you sue him? Your son did absolutely the wrong thing. Now you can stand up next to him. Your son, you can stand up next to your brother. Your son did absolutely the wrong thing.
Well, according to what the witnesses at the party told me.
Don't tell me what the witnesses told you, madam. That's hearsay.
Okay,
That's
well-
what your son says.
Okay.
Your son was there, not somebody that I can't question because they're not here.
Okay, well then
Your
I
son
won't-
gave me the whole scenario. His
He-
words.
He did, and he hit Justin with a pillow, and Justin turned around and hit him on a chair, jumped and punched him in the face.
So what? Out of nowhere, for no reason, your son came up and, according to him, using all of his strength, because he was angry, hit him. For no reason. And he got punched back. And then your son went and got an instrument, a lamp, and hit him with the lamp.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he went and got a knife.
To defend himself, yes.
What do you mean to defend himself?
Because he had threatened that he was going to come back and punch even out his other eye. He didn't want any further more.
He hit him with a lamp.
Correct.
Mr. Townsend hit him one time in retaliation for him being hit. Your son hit him once with a pillow, hit him twice using a lamp, and then picked up a knife. You're lucky he wasn't arrested. So your complaint is dismissed. Now, were you injured?
Just slightly. I had a bruise from where he hit me with the lamp.
Where did he hit you with the lamp?
Hit me in my ribs in this area.
You owe him an apology. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I forgive you.
Is that sufficient?
Yes, ma'am.
Made a mistake, Mrs. Weatherford. Your son was the aggressor.
I didn't feel that
Aggressors
way.
sometimes get the worst of a fight. In this case, your son was very lucky. All he ended up with was a black eye. If he would have used the knife or used the lamp in a different place, it could have been a lot worse for him.
Ma'am, he ended up with a lot more than a black eye.
How many times did he get hit?
He got hit once, but he got hit very hard, and it wasn't with a pillow.
No, he got hit with a fist.
Yes, he did.
That's what he deserved.
I don't feel that.
Well, that's too bad what you feel. I'm telling you, legally, your son had no right because he picked the wrong Justin to hit him. He didn't inquire sufficiently.
That's your opinion.
No, that's the law.
Okay.
And if you want to continue to defend him, this isn't the last time you're going to be in court with him. You better learn to say, you made a mistake, dear. You're a big boy. How old are you?
14, ma'am.
14. And how tall are you?
6.
6
foot.
feet,
Yeah.
right? Still growing. So you have to teach a child who's 14 years old. How much do you weigh?
220.
Who's 6 feet tall and weighs 220 pounds, that if he hits somebody, slams them with all of his might with a pillow, he can hurt them. Can knock out an eye, break something. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But when somebody who is, how much do you weigh?
120.
Who weighs 100 pounds less, punches him back and happens to connect, that's part of the risk. So you better teach him. Because right now, you're not teaching him anything. You're still making excuses for his behavior. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you.
You got an apology?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, that's all. You have 2 children.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
1 and 3. I mean 4.
And Mr. Enum is not the father of either of those children?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Enum,
Yes, ma'am.
according to the complaint that you filed in this case, you met the defendant and subsequently decided to lease a house with her. Both of you to the lease. She moved in, subsequently moved out with her 2 children. You want her responsible for her half of the rent for the duration of the lease.
Correct.
Ms. Hamlin says that you are a violent, vicious person, that you abused her and her children.
There's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a minute. And she is counterclaiming. That's what the case is about. All right. When did you sign this lease?
January 18, 2005.
And when did she move out?
May 28th, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her moving out.
She moved out in April.
Why did she move out? You don't know. Why did you move out?
I moved out because he was abusive to me and my children. He would hit my daughter, spank her when she would cry, give her bruises. He would hit my son when he would do something wrong. He just really abused me, and that's why I moved out. So
I didn't ask you for any
Yes,
information,
ma'am.
sir. Are you still living in the house?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Do you plan on staying in the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new roommate?
No, ma'am.
Plan on getting one?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't want to go through the same thing again.
So you can afford the rent yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you get any child support for your children?
I do, Your Honor, but I do not receive it.
You mean there's an order for child support?
Yes, but I do not receive it.
Why not?
The dad's not working, and he's just not responsible.
Do you get any other assistance for your children?
Nope. Just me working, that's it.
Did the children visit your family?
Yes, they do.
You know her family, I assume. Are you related to her?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
How are you related to her?
I reside with Michelle's mother. We've been together for 7 years, and I can testify of an harassment at Michelle's place of employment on one occasion.
What's your name?
My name is Jeffrey Bell, Your Honor.
Mr. Bell, do you remember the date of the alleged harassment?
It was shortly after Eric damaged
Give me a month.
May 2005. Sorry about that.
And tell me what you observed in May of 2005.
I witnessed Eric and two young ladies at Michelle's restaurant. After they had their meal, I watched Eric have his arm around this young lady. I considered it taunting Michelle at work. After they were close to the door, the two young ladies started arguing with the hostess and manager, stating that poor service, they want the manager's telephone number. I got up from my seat. I approached Eric right at the door.
Now, Mr. Bell, don't talk to him.
Yes, ma'am. And I did walk up to him and told Eric that I'm sure that you have some things to work out with Michelle, but please be cool. I shook his hand like a gentleman, and the next thing we know, the car's being vandalized, and if I knew that those children were abused...
Just a second, Mr. Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
If you knew that the children were abused, what would you do?
I would have wrung his neck.
What about her?
I would have taken care of her, too.
What
Your Honor.
about her, Mr. Bell? She's the mother. I read.
I love her, Your Honor.
Just a second.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
may love her.
Yes, I do.
But I read her complaint, and I'm not so interested in this half rent that Mr. Enman wants her to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because right now he's living in the house, and if he wants to get a roommate, he can do it. He told me a moment ago he has no interest in doing that because he can afford the rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he's going to stay there. So I'm not so interested in his complaint. I'm interested in her answer and her counterclaim. So I think that if you're going to be mad at somebody, if you believe any of this was going on,
Yes.
and I'm not so sure.
Okay. May I explain just one
No,
more
don't
point, please?
explain anything yet, because I'm going to get to some dates.
Yes, ma'am.
Your girlfriend's daughter, that's who this is, your girlfriend's daughter
Yes, ma'am.
says, in March of 2005, he was fired from his job.
No, I quit.
You quit your job.
Correct.
Whatever, fired. When he came home, we started to argue about money. He walked away from me and got into his car. So far, okay? They were arguing. He got into his car to leave.
Yes.
Prior to that, a few weeks after they had moved in together, so in February, they had a fight, according to her. He punched me repeatedly in the head, slapped me in my legs as hard as he could. I attempted to get away and ran outside, but he dragged me back into the house and continued to beat me. This was all in front of the children. This is what she says.
Yes, Your Honor.
All in front of the children. I pleaded with him to stop, and he finally left. A few weeks later, in March, evidently they're still together. All the while, he's abusing her children and abusing her, beating her, none of which you saw any evidence of, by the way. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Then in March, he was, according to her, fired from his job. He came home, they started to fight. He walked away to get into his car. So he walked away. Now, this is somebody that has beat her, dragged her into the house, punched her. So instead of saying, oh, he's leaving, I can get my stuff and my children and get out of here, right? Let's see what she does. Want to know what she says she does?
Yes, ma'am, please.
I followed him to finish talking. I knocked on his window to get his attention. You find that odd, Mr. Bell?
At this point, yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. He jumped out of the car and he hit me.
I ran into the house and locked myself in our bedroom with my children. When I wouldn't let him in, he kicked down the door and threw me on the bed and continued hitting me. Just a second, now, you getting mad at him?
Yes.
I don't believe her. Now, there's got to be something wrong with somebody who has family at home. You look like a very nice man. You live in the same town?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So we have somebody who has a mother who's clearly close to her. You have somebody who stands in what we call in French, in loco parentis, like a father to her, because you say you love her. Lives close by, who she can go to. So according to he beats her, that I assume you see her regularly.
Yes.
Right? She's still with him.
Yes.
They have another fight, but he leaves. He doesn't hit her. He doesn't touch her. She runs out of the house after him because she's not finished talking. Doesn't sound right to me. Does it sound right to you, sir?
Well, young people act a little differently, but to me, no, Your Honor.
All right. And this is, we're still talking March.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't leave in March.
No, she did not.
When did you leave?
Like the middle of April.
Your counterclaim says on April 29th, in a fit of rage, he came to my job and saw me talking to one of my coworkers. But according to you, he had your daughter in the car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was he doing with your daughter in the car?
He was taking care of her while I was at work.
Right. And he took care of both of your children while you were at work.
He picked them up from the daycare. He chose to pick them up from daycare.
How often did he pick them up from daycare?
Mostly every day.
So after, according to you, he's been abusing your children since February, March, April. You allow him, unsupervised, to go and pick up your children? You understand me, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I see your point, Your Honor.
Something doesn't ring true, Mr. Bell.
Up to this point, yes, Your Honor.
Well, that's the testimony so far. I'm practically finished with the complaint and the answer. I mean, I don't have voluminous papers here. I have somebody who says that he abuses her children, that he spanks her infant, spank her so hard it would leave bruises, and yet she allows him to be with her children unsupervised. If I believe it's true, she's as guilty as he is. Because she's the mother. They're her children.
Yes.
Her job is to protect those children. Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
You chose, as a baby, to have 2 children with somebody who was totally irresponsible, who doesn't take care of his children, and then according to you, and I'm questioning the truthfulness of what you say, you hook up with somebody who beats your children, and you stay with them.
He beat your children, you tell her. He beat your children.
Go ahead.
He beat my children, and I was scared to leave in the first place because I had bought him a shotgun, and I didn't know what he was capable of doing with that gun.
When did you buy him a shotgun?
Like in March.
Just a second. You told me that the first time he hit you and beat you was in February. Why did you buy him a shotgun in March? I'll get to you in a second. Why would you buy him a shotgun in March?
Because he wanted it to have protection from the kid's father.
Mr. Bell, don't buy everything that she's telling you, sir.
May I speak just for a couple words, please?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. I know that there's been numerous complaints against Michelle's children's first father with Eric and Michelle when they first got together. Numerous harassments over telephone, verbal assaults.
You mean by the father of these 2 children?
Yes, and they were both in fear from the beginning.
Just a minute. Did she confide that in you, sir?
Oh, yes.
That the father of her 2 children was harassing?
Yes.
Threatening?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you that he was?
No.
Right. Now I'll hear you. Because I know if I don't get you up here, we may have an accident. Okay. Who are you?
I'm Anna, and one of his witnesses.
Anna, you have a last name.
Arredondo.
Arredondo?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
On May 22nd of 2005, Michelle had came over to discuss some things with Eric, and
how do you know these 2 people?
I know these. I have met Michelle prior because they came over in my home, and I met her kids.
Just a second. So you're his friend?
Yes, I'm his friend.
How do you know him?
I've known him for 6 years.
Okay, so now you're going to May.
Yes, in May, on May 22nd, 2005, Michelle came over to Eric's home, and I was heading towards the kitchen, and I overheard her tell Eric.
Just 1 second. May 22nd, you went to his house?
Yes, sir.
Did you go with the police?
No, I went with a friend.
What did you go there to discuss?
Discuss about my stuff in the house still.
Discuss your property?
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about somebody who beats you,
beats your children, and you, without police protection, voluntarily went to his house.
Yes.
You got where I'm going, Mr. Bell?
I do, Your Honor.
Good. And what happened, Miss Arredondo? What did you hear?
I heard her, and I quote, if you take me to court, I'm just going to lie and tell the judge that you hit me. And Eric said, go ahead, she's just going to see that you're lying. So that's all I can witness.
That's a lie. That's a lie, Your Honor.
I don't think so.
Eric Enham claims ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin broke their apartment lease and failed to repay his loan.
Okay. All I can do is look at conduct. According to you, you entered into an abusive relationship with someone with whom you had 2 children. Then you went to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, he started to abuse you as soon as you signed the lease in this house together. Seriously abusing you, beating, punching, hitting, kicking, but also did the same thing to your 2 infant children. And you continued to live with him. And when you had another fight, he wanted to leave the house, you followed him outside. And then he beat you again. And then you still continued to live with him and allowed your children to live with him. And not only did you allow your children to live with him, but you allowed him unsupervised care of your children. He was the caretaker of your children while you were working. Now, when for the first time did you report his abusive conduct to you and your children to the police?
I never reported it.
Why not?
Because I was scared if I did report it that he would do something else.
Your Honor, we haven't got to the part where he was driving recklessly with a child in the back of the car, doing donuts in a parking lot at her work.
Did you see that, Mr. Bell?
Myself, no.
So I just asked you if you saw that.
I did not see that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edmonds says that he had the child in the car and he went to get her because why?
Because she said she was going to a party that night and going to leave me with the kids.
And what did you say to her?
So let her know that you're not. You need to be home with your kids.
And she said?
She said, no, I'm not. I'm taking my kids. I'm going out.
I'm taking my kids and I'm going out.
Correct.
So what did you do?
I went to her work.
And you saw her doing what?
Being all over.
Listen to me. Go ahead.
I saw her being all over 2 other guys in the parking lot.
So you got mad?
Correct.
Were you driving around in a reckless manner in the parking lot with the child in the car?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I told her to get in the car and go home. And when we got to our place of residence, I pulled in the garage and the police came right behind us.
Because she had called the police?
Correct.
Had you called him that day to tell him you were going out?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you tell him you were going to be home?
Probably
Don't look down there. When did you tell him you were going to be home?
like about 12 or 1.
In the morning?
Yeah.
And who was supposed to watch the children till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning?
I told him that I was going to go to a friend's house and watch a movie and that I would come and pick up my daughter and take her with me. He told me that...
Just a second. Where was your other child?
My other child was with his dad.
When did the other child go with his father?
In the morning time.
This is the same father who you were afraid of and you bought him a shotgun to protect the 2 of you from?
Yes, ma'am.
You got a lot of work to do, Mr. Bell. Her judgment is impaired. You don't get it. Her judgment is impaired.
She's young, and I watched her mature from a teenager to a very good mother. And she is a very good mother, Your Honor.
Impossible! Impossible if I believe what she wrote in her answer, Mr. Bell. Impossible if I believe her that she allowed her children to be in a circumstance with this man who abused her children. That makes her the worst possible mother. The worst possible mother. To sit there and watch a stranger to the children, she says, beat her baby with bruises, and you're telling me matured into a very good mother? Your judgment is impaired.
I believe sometimes, Your Honor, that love is blind. It may be
Love
hard.
may be blind, and there are women who stay in abusive relationships. She clearly is one of those people who stayed, at least in her first relationship, which was abusive, although she continues to have the lunatic that she described to me before that required protection by a shotgun. She allowed that person to take her infant child. Impaired judgment. And I don't believe her. I don't believe that she was the victim of the kind of abuse she ascribes to the plaintiff. She filed not one police report. You saw no evidence of abuse on either her or her children. She didn't even file a police report after she moved. As a matter of fact, after she moved out and she was free and clear of this horrendous person who beat her and her children, she went back to his house. Is that the action of somebody who's afraid? Okay. Listen to me, sir. You get not a dime from her. You're living in a house. You're happy living there. What you are required to do in this kind of circumstance is to mitigate your damages, which means you put an ad in the internet, you put an ad in the local paper for a roommate. You chose not to do that. That's wonderful. You can afford it, live there. I don't believe your allegations with regard to your counterclaim, madam. And I think that you have to. If you made 2 children, you better get smart. Because if on the long shot that anything that you say here was true, you have so far made 2 very poor choices. And you have a responsibility to your 2 children to choose more wisely with regard to mates that you select, or else make up your mind that you're not going to have a mate for a while and you're going to rely on this gentleman and your mother as family to help raise your children. And grow up. That's all. It was a friend of yours. Somehow got hold of your car and caused damage on 3 separate occasions in one night.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez says that you were so drunk that night that you don't remember that you were driving and you caused the damage to your own car.
Not true.
Right?
Right.
And you are just friends?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was messing
I don't
around
want to
with her for a
guess
while.
what I'm going to say anything. I'm asking you, are you just friends or are you more than friends?
Yes, we were just friends.
Not intimate?
Yes, we were intimate a couple times.
Well, Bert is my friend. We have never been intimate. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand the difference? How old are you?
21.
How old are you?
35.
All right. So that's a little bit of a difference. Okay, so you were intimate friends. That's a new
Yes.
category of friends. There are people who are intimate, then there were friends, and then somewhere in the middle there are intimate friends. You are one of those. When did this assault on your car take place?
June 5th.
Okay. And what were you doing out with Mr. Gonzalez?
Actually, I was home when he called me and asked me to give him and his friend Mike a ride home. And I went.
Why did they need a ride home?
I didn't ask.
And you said, fine, I'll come and pick you up and give you a ride home.
Sure.
Keep going.
When I got to the restaurant, the establishment, he was there with 3 other gentlemen. They were there eating and drinking, and I ordered a margarita, and we were there for about an hour and a half.
How many margaritas did you have?
Just 1, Your Honor. And then from there, they wanted to take off, and we went to a billiards place where we were there only a half hour. I played billiards with one of the other gentlemen that was there with them. They wanted to leave. We went to another local establishment, a local bar.
So you were playing chauffeur that night?
Pretty much.
So the reason for the phone call was you guys wanted to drink and you needed somebody to
Drive.
chauffeur you around.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to her?
I asked her for a ride because we had all been drinking.
Well, a ride to take you home is one thing. A ride to schlep you from one place to another so you continue to drink is something entirely different.
Oh, well, we planned on going home. But when she got there, she started drinking with us, and we said, well, you feel like going somewhere else? She said, yeah, so we went.
Keep going, Miss Castillo.
When we left that establishment, we dropped off his other friend, the one that they went in a car with, to his car, to his vehicle, and from there I went to a local gas station. And I went there, I got off, left the keys in the ignition, paid gas to the pump where I was parked at. When I came out, my car was gone. I panicked. I was looking around the parking lot, looking to see where they were. I gave them time. I'm thinking maybe it's a practical joke. Maybe they're out there looking at me, freaking out. I gave them about 15, 20 minutes, and at that point, I had dialed 911 to report the car stolen. When I looked up, he was driving back in the car with his friend still in the car. I was yelling at him. He refused to get out of the driver's side and said he was going to drive himself and his friends home. Said, fine. I pumped the gas in my car, got in the passenger side, and he drove his first friend home. He drove recklessly to the point where that friend didn't even wait till the car came to a complete stop. He literally jumped out of the car before he stopped the car in motion. Okay, and he tells me that's what you get for hanging out with a 21-year-old. He yells that through the window.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. He speeds off, and I'm yelling and telling him to stop, get out of the car. He doesn't get off the car. Drives down a road where there's construction on both sides of the road. There's bolted cones with concrete dividers on both sides of the road. He's driving recklessly. He's hitting these cones. I counted 8. When I seen him headed towards the concrete divider, I literally had to put my hand on the steering wheel to avoid a real major crash. When I did that, he still didn't stop. He had all green lights for whatever reason. We drove to his house. We go into his house. I told him I wanted some resolve. I wanted something in writing. He tells me to go wait.
Just a second. You went into his house. And what happened when you got into his house?
We were talking.
Look at me. Now here, you see, I can tell when somebody is not giving me the accurate story. So don't start embellishing now what you think you want to tell me. What happened when you went into his house?
We talked. I told him I wanted...
What did you say to him?
I told him I wanted something in writing. I asked him, how are we going to handle the situation?
What situation?
About him hitting the car. I hadn't seen the damages to the car yet. I knew he was hitting the pylons, and I knew he had already hit, there was some damage, but I hadn't actually inspected the car at this point. So then he brushes me off, goes into the back room, talks to his friend Mike, then he tells me to wait for him in my car outside, and we'll talk some more. So there I go. I walked outside of the house, went into the car, sat in my car, and at this point I see him getting in Mike's car, and they're driving away. So I turned on my car, I followed them to an apartment complex, all the way across town. And at this point, I'm looking for my cell phone, which I couldn't find, somewhere on the floor.
Because you're drunk?
That's not true. And when we got there, I followed them to a dead end, and I had to back up. I backed up so that they can straighten out. They were there in the car for about 5 minutes, and then Mr. Gonzalez gets off the car, comes towards my car. In the meantime, his friend Mike drives off, tells me to move over so we could talk. Then he's telling me that he had no reason to bow down to me like I was some princess, that that's the reason why he doesn't have a valid license, because he can't drive. And he puts the car in reverse, backs it into the wall, then he drives off.
So you let him get into the driver's side of the car, according to you, and you moved over. I assume you have a bench seat in the front?
It's not a bench seat, no.
What is it?
Two separate seats.
Two separate seats. So you had to crawl over, and where's the whatever?
It's right there in the center.
It's in the middle.
It's in the middle.
Yeah.
So you had to sort of get your leg over there, and he opened up the driver's side, unless you got out of the driver's side and walked around to the passenger side. So you scooted over somehow. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I did.
You scooted over somehow and let him in.
I didn't have a choice. He was practically sitting on my lap.
Miss Castillo.
Well, I still scooted over.
Miss Castillo, my dear, you're a 35-year-old woman. You had a choice. As soon as he got to his house and you dropped him off, instead of following him across town to an apartment complex in a dead-end street, you call 911. And you say, this man got into my car, took my car, damaged my car. I want to report the damage to my car. Because according to you, you went into his house, Miss Castillo, to get him to sign a piece of paper. Did he sign it?
No.
Should have had some clue that he was not going to take responsibility for what he had done to your car. Is that right?
No.
You thought he was going to take responsibility, and that's why he got into Mike's car and
no,
drove
that's why
away?
I followed him, because I didn't know if he was going to drop him off somewhere and disappear. But when I tried to look for my cell phone, I couldn't find it. It wasn't on in my purse.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, go.
My turn?
That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah, after we left the first establishment, we went to another bar. We did have about 3 pictures. When we left, she asked me to drive because she had been drinking. I said, no, there's no way I'm going to drive. I have a DUI. I'll pick up another one, and I'm in trouble.
I don't want you to speak.
So I told her no. She asked everybody to drive, actually, but she pestered me about it. I didn't drive. When we went to the gas station, nobody took her car. She came back, put gas. We dropped off my friend. We dropped off another friend, went to our house. She followed me inside, and we were there for about 2 hours. And she didn't ask me
What were you
about...
doing it for the 2 hours in your house?
We were playing intimate friendship. And after that...
You're a fast learner.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Then after that, I told her to leave because we had to drop off one of my buddy Mike's girlfriend that had just got there. And I didn't want to see her anymore. And she got upset and was telling me things about me and her. And I told her, I'm not with you. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to have nothing to do with you.
This is after you played intimate friendship?
Yes. Of course. And then after that, she went to her car. We left. About halfway to our destination, we realized she was following us. We turned into the apartments where we were supposed to be. She followed us in, and you have to turn like zigzag. So we parked on the side, and as soon as she came in, I got off the car and told her why she was following me, and I was pretty upset. While she mashes out in reverse, boom, hits a wall, and I ran around the side of the car to the driver's side because I was pissed. I was telling her things, you know, I probably shouldn't have been saying. But then she takes off forward and hits the front side of her car on one of those big poles.
Okay. Now, I see that you have something over there, Miss Castillo. I'd like you to tell me what it is.
This is a tape recorder where he leaves me a voice message the day after the incident where he admits he took off in my car without me.
Oh, I'd like to hear that. That I would like to hear, and I would like you to give it to Officer Burtz because I want to listen to it very carefully. You wouldn't have done that, sir.
No.
Is that right?
No, that's not my voice.
Oh. Let's see.
076. Received June 6th at 7:19.
Hey, when I left you yesterday, when you left at the night, your car was fine. I don't know what you're tripping on. I didn't do nothing to your car. I didn't hit nothing, and after I took off, I only took off once without you. And when I came back, your car was fine. I didn't need nothing, so I don't know why you're going to be mad at me. But if you're all right, then late.
That is your voice, Mr. Gonzalez?
That is not my voice.
Sure it is.
Does that even admit that I was driving?
Yeah, it said that I only took off in your car once, and I didn't do any damage to your car.
Well, that wasn't me. I haven't driven
I
for
only
a long
took
time.
off. Listen to me. This is what it says.
Okay.
And you know what's logical, Mr. Gonzalez, because you're
What's
a
that?
smart young man.
Yes.
If she was going to falsify this and have somebody else pretend that they were you,
Yes.
she would have had this person say, listen, I'm sorry I did all the damage to your car. I'll pay you for it.
Yes.
Wouldn't have had them say, listen, I didn't damage your car. I took off with it once and I brought it back. Nothing happened to it. So I don't know what you're complaining about. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. So this is your voice, and you acknowledge that you took off once with her car, but you say, I didn't cause any damage to your car. That I believe. So you see, you shouldn't fib.
Okay.
Because if you fib, then I can doubt everything that you're telling me. Now, Miss Castillo, I don't believe you damaged your car. I think that you were really angry, and I think that if your car got damaged, you did it, or you let him drive your car. Now, if you're going to choose playmates, you got to choose playmates that are somehow equal to you. These young men on that night in June were doing nothing more than using you as a chauffeur. I am not comfortable enough with your story to find that Mr. Gonzalez, as outrageous as his behavior might be, and however morally reprehensible his behavior might be, is responsible for the damage to your car, Ms. Castillo. So your complaint is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Time.
Trên tay mình đang cầm đây là dòng sữa tắm được Hoa Ý Tejusri, lấy cảm hứng từ nghi thức của các phương Đông với dòng sữa tắm được Hoa Tejusri với khả năng chống lại các chất oxy hóa, trẻ hóa và nuôi dưỡng cho chúng ta có một cái làn da mềm mịn sáng khỏe nhờ vào các cái thành phần cực kỳ là quý có trong dòng sữa tắm này. Những cái thành phần quý đó là hoa sen và cái thành phần bơ hạt mỡ. Thì với cái thành phần hoa sen, ngoài cái vẻ đẹp tinh khiết, nó còn chứa ẩn rất là nhiều cái tính năng kỳ diệu có trong các cái liệu pháp làm đẹp. Và với cái thành phần hoa sen thì có giàu cái chất axit linoleic, protein, phosphor, sắt, có rất là nhiều về vitamin A và vitamin C, nên nó được dùng trong các cái tiệm spa giúp thư giãn cũng như là tẩy sạch các cái tế bào chết. Thì với cái dòng sữa tắm Tejusri đã được tận dụng để các cái tính năng độc đáo của hoa sen nó sẽ được bổ sung làm nên cái độ ẩm và mang lại cho chúng ta một cái làn da mịn màng và một cái làn da săn chắc. Còn đối với cái thành phần bơ hạt mỡ tại châu Phi thì được biết và được sử dụng trong nhiều thế kỷ như là một cái thành phần bí quyết làm đẹp vô song với các cái thuộc tính làm mềm cũng như là giữ ẩm cho làn da được một cách tốt nhất. Và với cái dòng sữa tắm nước hoa sen của Tejusri thì rất là phù hợp cho tất cả các làn da, đặc biệt là những làn da khô, sẽ mang lại cho một cảm giác dễ chịu, sảng khoái khi mà chúng ta sử dụng.